Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Scion Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Soul Marble Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. A somebody was once a nobody who wanted to and did. John Burroughs. As humans evolve, more people are being born with supernatural powers every day. Although roughly only 20% of the population are born quirkless 100 years ago, they had been the majority, not the minority. The number hasn't fallen to zero, which means that no one's child is absolutely guaranteed to manifest a quirk. This small statistic weighs in Inko's mind as she watches her son grow from a wailing infant to a curious toddler, and then to an excitable child with a love of heroes. She's the one who sees it all. Her husband's absence leaves a hole in her heart that is temporarily filled by her sweet little boy, but it doesn't stop these thoughts from invading her mind when she is alone. Her son is such a good boy, it would break her heart if he didn't inherit any powers. Her fears are unfounded. Izuku is 4 years old when Inko finally takes him to see the doctor. He doesn't have the extra toe joint, he tells them, showing them the x-ray he took of Izuku's foot. He should show signs of his quirk soon. Her relief is almost palpable when she hears the confirmation. Hisashi can breathe fire, and Inko can pull small objects to herself. What kind of quirk would manifest as a result of such a combination? Or would her son be more likely to inherit one of their quirks? Inko entertains a few fantasies in her head, though she is careful not to put too much stock into her imagination lest she unintentionally disappoints herself. The little boy is beyond excited, though he has yet to show any signs of his quirk. So of course, the very first person he tells right after repeating it 50 times to his mother, "God bless that woman and her patience," is Kaken. Young Bakugo Katsuki grunts, then loudly announces, "It can't be as cool as mine." He accentuates his statement by promptly blowing up the stick in his hand. This is a terrible idea, of course, as he had only recently began to practice with his quirk and, instead of obliterating the stick from existence, he gets splinters stuck in his hand for his trouble. Izuku runs to get their parents. The days pass by normally, with no sign of Izuku's quirk showing even as his 5th birthday comes and goes. Izuku tries his hardest to breathe fire. He almost faints from lack of oxygen, or pull objects to himself, nothing so much as twitches in his direction, but his lack of progress is discouraging. "How can I become a hero like this?" he cries. Inko presses a tender kiss to his temple and whispers, "You need to be patient, baby. The doctor said you have a quirk. It'll come to you when it's ready, okay?" "Okay," he sniffles. They sit on the couch and watch reruns of All Might's heroic acts until Izuku falls asleep. 3 days later, Katsuki is angrier than usual when Izuku walks up to him at school. He yells at Izuku to leave him alone. Kaken, the little green-haired boy, begins, but the explosive child cuts him off. "Go away. Deku." Katsuki pushes at his shoulder, sparks flaring in warning from his open palm. Izuku presses on despite the clear threat. "What's wrong, Kaken? Tell me," he pleads, wide, round eyes staring innocently at his friend. Katsuki falters for a second because DMN, it should be illegal to look that cute, then his eyebrows draw together in an enraged expression. "Stop looking down on me, you nerd," he screams, pushing Izuku away with enough force to make him fall to the floor with a yelp. Izuku gazes up at him, teary-eyed and confused. "Kaken? Why are you so mad at me?" he asks. The blonde boy stomps over to him with as much anger as a 5-year-old child can muster. "You lied to me, didn't you? Stupid Deku," he bellows into Izuku's bewildered face. "You said you were gonna have a quirk. So where is it?" I don't know." Izuku stammers, backpedaling away from the angry boy. "Well, where's your quirk?" Katsuki demands. "Are you hiding it? Think I'm not good enough to see it? You're not gonna tell me you were lying and that you're actually quirkless, are you?" "I'm not," the green-haired boy protests, clambering to his feet. I'm not. I just haven't gotten it yet, that's all." Katsuki scoffs, "Whatever. You keep saying that." He sees a teacher heading their way at the sound of the commotion they had been making and turns to leave. "Kaken, wait." Izuku reaches out in a fit of desperation and does something he's never done before. He grabs Katsuki's arm. The world goes dark for a moment. And then, he sees. There is a pulsating crimson core hovering before him, as small as his fist, sickly red strands spiderwebbing outwards from the center. Yellow sparks burst and pop at random points across the strands, and around him they beat erratically, violently. It sounds almost like a heartbeat, only angrier. He doesn't even stop to think about where he is or what's going on. He instinctively knows what he has to do. Izuku holds out a single hand and pulls. The real world rushes back so fast that Izuku nearly gets whiplash. He feels disoriented at the sight of so much light and color after being in the dark for a few seconds. In front of him Katsuki freezes mid-step, shivering. Izuku feels something round and heavy pressing into the palm of his free hand and he looks down at it, his grip on his friend's arm loosening. He stares at the object in his hand, nonplussed. It's a marble. Bigger than the average marble with a 2 cm diameter, it's crystal clear with dark swirls of red frozen inside of it in an eternal dance. At the very center, there is a yellow starburst. The red swirls curl around it protectively, as if attempting to shield it from the world. It's beautiful. He also has no idea where it came from. Well, no, he does have an idea, but could that maybe be? He doesn't register Katsuki pulling his arm out of his grasp, but as the silence stretches on, Izuku realizes that his friend hasn't said a single word to him. When he finally looks up to gauge Katsuki's reaction, the other boy has the strangest expression on his face. The fact that he looks genuinely confused and not angrily confused makes this whole experience even weirder. Izuku says, staring back at the explosive boy. I just got my quirk. Katsuki remains quiet, which makes Izuku feel uneasy. He didn't hurt Kaken, did he? They're both startled when the teacher finally reaches them. Boys, what's this I'm hearing about an argument? She asks sternly. The blonde kicks mulishly at the floor. Izuku holds out his marble. I think I just got my quirk, Nakajima-sensei, he answers. Oh my, how lovely. Did you make this, Izuku-kun? She exclaims, gently taking the marble from his hand and admiring it in the bright light of the hallway. Aha. I'm not really sure how, but when I grabbed Kaken's arm, there's this thing that I could see. Everybody was gone and there was this red ball thing in front of me and I didn't really think much about it, but I guess I knew that I needed to pull it out somehow. And I think when I did that thing I saw became that, Izuku explains, gesturing to the colorful object. Nakajima-sensei gives him back the marble. That's an interesting ability, Izuku-kun. I'm sure your mother will be happy to hear about it, she says, giving him a pat on the head. Izuku giggles at her and holds the marble close to him. The teacher turns to Katsuki. Katsuki-kun, we've talked about this before. No loud arguments with your classmates, okay? Whatever, the blonde boy mutters. Now, when Izuku-kun activated his quirk, did you feel anything? She inquires. Katsuki shifts uncomfortably under her gaze. I stopped being mad at him, he replies, seeming to find the floor very interesting all of a sudden. Nakajima-sensei beams. See, that wasn't so hard to say, was it? She hums, taking both of them by the hand. Katsuki half-heartedly protests as she leads them away, which is a far cry from his usual angry screamfest. Izuku wonders if he really did just steal Kaken's anger with his new quirk. Their classmates ooh and ah over Izuku's new marble, which is the most attention he's gotten all year, and it makes him feel a bit giddy. At some point, he offers the glass ball to Kaken, but the boy refuses to take it. Keep it, it's part of your quirk, he says before he leaves. When Inko comes to pick him up that day, Izuku greets her with a huge smile. Mom! Guess what, I got my quirk today, he shouts, running up to her and throwing himself against her soft belly in an enthusiastic tackle. As expected, Inko is absolutely ecstatic at the news and she sweeps him up in a huge hug. Oh, my sweet baby Izuku, that's wonderful, she coos, nuzzling his cheek affectionately. Tell me about it. Did you inherit one of our quirks or is it a combination quirk? I do hope that you take after me, but fire breath is still a lovely quirk to have. He wiggles his way out of her hold and then shows her the marble. Actually I can make these. This is made of Kaken's anger, I think. I've only done it once, so I'm not really sure my quirk works yet, but so far I think I can see things when I touch people, he rambles, gesturing animatedly with his tiny hands. Like when I grabbed Kaken's arm, the whole world turned dark. Then there was this floating red light thing and I pulled on it and it became this marble. So I think maybe I can sense anger? I'm not sure if it's only anger or if it applies to other emotions, but I guess my quirk allows me to pull them out of people and make them not mad anymore. Kaken's anger turned into this marble and after I did that, he wasn't mad at all. If this quirk allows me to help people not be angry, then I'm really glad I have it. He pauses to take a deep breath and blushes slightly when he realizes that he had started chattering away at his mom. Inko listens to every word with a smile on her face. She's sure that he'll explain it to her more when he's older and can articulate things better, but she caught the gist of it from his rambling. A quirk that can manifest anger or other negative emotions into beautiful inanimate objects, huh? It's not really what she was expecting from a combination of hers and Hisashi's quirks, but it sounds amazing all the same. They have katsudon for dinner that night to celebrate. Inko hunts down a small decorative dish she can use to proudly display the little trinket on one of their shelves. After dinner, Izuku gets out his notebook and writes about what he currently knows about his quirk. He looks up and sees All Might's grinning face staring down at him from the posters plastered all over his bedroom walls, and thinks, I can be a hero, too. Izuku goes to bed the happiest he's ever been in his life. In public, quirk usage is strictly regulated to pro heroes with an official hero license. That doesn't stop the villains from doing villain things, and really, without villains there would be no hero industry in the first place, but mostly everybody knows to follow the law. Young children are a different story. Izuku is shopping with his mother the next day when he sees a lost little girl with black hair crying on a nearby bench. He tugs on his mother's sleeve. Inko turns and sees what he sees. Oh no, the poor darling, she gasps. Without hesitation, the two of them walk over to the girl. Excuse me, Izuku says, catching the other child's attention. She sniffles loudly and wipes at her eyes with the back of her hands. Inko kindly hands her a handkerchief. Why yes, the little girl asks meekly, taking the hanky and wiping her face with it. Who are you? I'm Izuku and this is my mom. We saw you crying and we want to help you. Izuku declares. So what's wrong? The girl tears up again. I lost my mommy and daddy, she bawls loudly. I was looking at the pretty flowers and then they were gone. There, Inko says gently. So you're lost? I'm sure you're. Mommy and daddy are worried about you, too. We'll help you find them, won't we, Izuku? Yeah. Izuku beams. So don't be sad anymore, okay? He takes her hand without thinking and is plunged into the same dark world he saw with Kaken. But this time, the angry red core that he saw within his friend is gone. Instead, a cool blue core shines faintly ahead of him, drooping, inky tendrils of blue and gray waving to and fro around it. Izuku pulls at it the way he did the first time. When he flashes back to reality, Inko is giving him a concerned look. Izuku honey? Is everything alright? She asks. Yeah, I'm okay. Just have to get used to my quirk, he answers, giving a quick shake of his head to get rid of the remaining fuzziness. Inko looks down at him with a helplessly fond expression. When Izuku looks at the girl again, he's pleased to find that she has stopped crying. Izuku feels the smooth, round surface of his new marble in his other hand. He holds it up for inspection. This time the marble is smaller, smoky swirls of light gray intertwining with deep blue to form a shape like a teardrop in the center. He gives it to the girl with a bright chirp of, Here, you can have this. It's something I made from your sadness. The little girl stares at him in wonder, her tiny fingers clasped loosely around the small marble. I don't feel sad anymore. Thank you. Will you really help me find my mommy and daddy? She asks shyly, sliding off the bench. She returns the handkerchief, damp with her tears. The woman pockets it without a word. Of course we will, sweetheart, Inko says, smiling and taking her hand. What's your name? The girl grins. I'm Suzume. That thing you did when you made me stop feeling sad, was that your quirk? She questions Izuku. He nods happily. That's so cool. I bet you would be a really good therapist? A therapist? That's a sweet suggestion, Inko remarks, starting to walk down the street again. But knowing my little Izuku, there's only one thing he wants to be when he grows up. I want to be a hero. Izuku chimes in, right on cue. He even punches a fist into the air for good measure. Never fear, for I am here. Suzume giggles. Yay, you can do it, she cheers, also pumping her small fist towards the sky. I'm gonna tell my mommy and daddy about you when we find them. This marble is so pretty, I'm sure they'll think so too. It doesn't take long to locate Suzume's parents, both of whom are beyond relieved to find her safe and unharmed. They thank Inko profusely for helping to guide their child back to them. Oh, it was no problem. In fact, you should be thanking my little Izuku, Inko gushes proudly, ushering her son forward. He's the one who brought her to my attention. Suzume's father, a tall man with sideswept chestnut hair and a small mustache, kneels down and ruffles Izuku's curly hair. Thank you very much, Izuku-kun. I have faith that one day you will be an amazing hero, he says kindly. Izuku feels indescribably happy at the praise and beams, his smile stretching from ear to ear. Mommy, Daddy, look at what Izuku gave me. Suzume bursts out excitedly, showing them the small glass marble. They gasp in awe at the sight of the bauble. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. Where did you buy this from? Suzume's mother inquires, looking at the way it shines in the sunlight. I made it. Izuku proclaims. Suzume was really sad and I wanted to cheer her up, so I used my quirk to make her not sad anymore. Your quirk? I see. You must have a very special quirk, Izuku-kun. Thank you for helping my daughter, Suzume's mother says, handing the little marble back to her child. You'll make a wonderful hero someday. Izuku doesn't think he can get any happier. He's helping people and they're thanking him. He's starting to feel like a hero already. As Izuku grows up, he finds out that he can make more than just plain old marbles out of people's negative emotions. If he focuses hard enough, he can mold the core emotion into a different shape, but it takes a lot of effort, and the first time he tries it, he throws up afterwards. That doesn't stop him from practicing though. By the time Izuku turns 10, he can make up to 5 custom sculptures a day before he becomes nauseous. When he's 12, he can make 7. His quirk becomes famous amongst his peers, especially the girls. Feeling sad? No problem, have a glass dolphin. Feeling jealous? Here's a blossoming flower. Need to reel in that hatred? Take this roaring tiger. Tired of being lonely? A glass puppy for you. Naturally, the strength of the emotion affects the size of the marble. A depressed teenager will have much more negative emotions than a girl who's mad at her friend for stealing her lip gloss. For Katsuki, who's usually either angry, angrier, or furious, Izuku takes his rage and gifts him with a magnificent western red dragon, complete with twisted black horns, curved claws, and a pair of deadly wings arched high over its spiny back. A gout of scarlet flame spews from its open maw, lined with tiny sharp teeth. Kaken, you really should stop being so mean to other people, he chastises, holding out the delicate glass figurine to his dumbstruck childhood friend. Look at how much anger you have pent up. It's not healthy, you know. He takes one of Katsuki's hands and gently places the dragon into his open palm. The glass sculpture is heavy and solid, big enough to nearly cover his hand. Katsuki stares at the glass dragon with wide eyes, his mouth falling open in true surprise. He doesn't thank Izuku for it, but when word gets around later that the explosive boy had stopped picking on other students, for Izuku that's enough. It doesn't stop there, in fact. The neighborhood bullies and potential villains quickly learn not to mess with the green-haired, bright-eyed boy, because somehow the local human dynamite Bakugo Katsuki will catch wind of the confrontation and come running, palms a-blazing. And itching for an epic beatdown. He always wins. And Izuku never fails to thank him. The tormentor has suddenly become the protector. Izuku isn't sure why Katsuki decided to listen to him this time instead of all the other times, but he can't argue with the results. Whenever Izuku spectates pro-hero fights, he sometimes wonders if it would make a difference if he casually strolled in and yanked out the villain's negative emotions. There's too much risk when he's still young and small, so he doesn't dare, but he wonders. Sadness, anger, hatred, jealousy, loneliness, guilt, anxiety, depression, despair, he can take them all and make them into something beautiful. Though the baubles he makes have no real value, for the people he gives them to, it's a reminder that they are stronger than their fears, that they are not worthless, but human, just like everyone else. But is the same thing true for villains? Quietly, he jots notes down into his hero analysis notebook, often forgetting to mind his mumbling habit. He observes both heroes and villains alike, and draws up his own conclusions for how a fight might go if he was involved in the mix. It is during a particularly brutal fight in which the villain nearly wins that Izuku realizes a simple, but unwelcome truth about his quirk. Although his quirk is incredibly useful for counseling, therapy, and diffusing difficult situations, it's not suitable for combat. What's he going to do, stroll up to a criminal and grab part of their body and pretend that there's no consequences to doing so? He doesn't fancy broken ribs, thanks. He voices as much to Katsuki over lunch, who snorts and cuffs him over the head. Idiot, that's a surefire way to get your dumb FING self killed. Learn some DMN self-defense or something. Katsuki gripes irritably, shoveling more rice into his mouth. Like what? Izuku wonders. The way his quirk works, he has to physically touch someone with one of his bare hands. It works regardless of whether his chosen target is covering their skin with clothing or not. But between the two of them, Bakugo's always been the actual fighter. Izuku just sort of waits for the opportunity to strike. Martial arts do involve a lot of physical contact, but it isn't like he's trying to hurt anyone. He wants to be a hero more than anything else, so of course his focus should be on a way to save people without injuring them. So the best arts to practice should probably center around increasing his ability to evade or somehow turn his opponent's movement back on himself. Maybe capoeira? That would certainly help his footwork a lot. Or, shut the F up with your DMN mumbling, Deku. I'm trying to eat. Katsuki yells, nearly throwing the remains of his onigiri at Izuku's face. The green-haired boy claps a hand over his mouth, sending his friend a sheepish glance. Sorry, Kaken, he apologizes, ever the pacifist. Katsuki grumbles something incoherent as he violently chomps down the rest of his meal. Go do some FING research, why don't you, he mutters, rising from his position to throw away his garbage. So Izuku does. Aikido ends up being his first choice, simply because the basic premise is that you can subdue opponents without actively hurting them. He did consider practicing judo, but Izuku isn't sure he has the strength to grapple, throw, and pin opponents larger than him. There is also the matter of a good deal of judo moves involving SBMSN via pain, which isn't his goal. So Aikido it is. Inko wholeheartedly agrees when he tells her that he wants to learn Aikido so he can be a better hero. Being a pro hero can be dangerous at times, and for Izuku, whose quirk isn't a battle-oriented quirk, he needs all the skills he can get. Inko just wants to make sure her son comes home safe and sound. She signs him up for his first Aikido class a month later. Yoshida-sensei is as stern as he is kind. Quirk usage is strictly forbidden in his dojo. It is his belief that all students training under his guidance are here to hone their physical body and strength of mind, not their gifted supernatural powers. If you want to hone your quirks, go to hero school, he says gruffly. For those who had mutant-type quirks, he stresses the importance of training themselves to rely on their physical body, not just taking advantage of what enhancements their quirks offered them. To Izuku's surprise, one of the other students recognizes him when he enters. "Izuku," she exclaims, running over to him with wide brown eyes. "Oh my gosh, it is you. I can't believe it." She starts laughing, her braided black hair swinging side to side behind her. Izuku squints at her. Do I know you?" he asks hesitantly, because frankly he's never seen her before in his life, but something about her seems very familiar. She takes his confusion in stride. "It's me, Suzume. Remember? You and your mom helped me find my parents when I got lost as a little kid," she explains. He does remember, vaguely. "Oh yeah. I made a marble out of your sadness, didn't I? Did you keep it?" he inquires eagerly. "Of course. I look at it every time I feel sad and I'll think about how you cheered me up that day, and I'll stop being sad again," she says happily, clapping her hands together. "Let's catch up later, okay?" She skips back over to her group, waving once more to Izuku before she begins stretching. Izuku is happy to know that he's got at least one friend to talk to during his lessons. Yoshida-sensei clears his throat and launches into a quick orientation lecture on what to expect from today's class. Izuku sits down and gives him his utmost attention. A hero like All Might didn't become number one by slacking off, after all. So Izuku learns his chosen martial art, and he gives away pretty trinkets in place of negative emotions, and he grows up, and he gets through junior high school with high grades, and he becomes fast friends with Shirogane Suzume, and he thanks Katsuki every time he stands up for him. And then nobody laughs when he says he wants to go to Yui. Life seems to be going swimmingly for the young Midoriya. Until the day he encounters a villain on which his quirk doesn't work. Keep your eyes on the stars, and your feet on the ground. Theodore Roosevelt. Izuku begins his day by opening up his shoe locker to change into his school shoes, and is promptly attacked by the flood of colorful letters that comes cascading out. Somewhere to his right, Katsuki laughs at him. The other boys shoot him envious looks. "Gosh, I'm flattered, but do they really have to put it all in my locker?" Izuku sighs, bending over to pick up all the fallen letters from the floor. He doesn't notice when a few of his classmates attempt to discreetly ogle him from behind, but Katsuki does, and he gives them a vicious glare that sends them scurrying away fearfully. "That's right, back off, you fucking extras," he yells after their retreating backs. "If I see you doing that again, I'll kill you." Izuku turns around with a reproachful look, his arms full of letters. "Kaken, don't be mean," he says, lightly bumping his friend's shoulder. Katsuki whirls on him. "You can't talk, moron. They wouldn't keep thinking they had a chance if you weren't such a FING doormat all the time," he snaps irately. He barely restrains himself from grabbing the letters from Izuku's arms and blowing them into confetti, but that would create a mess that they'd have to clean up. Let it be known that Bakugo Katsuki does not litter, because that's a waste of time and it's bad for the environment. "You're too nice to those nobodies, Deku." "I'm not a doormat," Izuku says petulantly, cramming the letters into his backpack. "I'm a pacifist, there's a difference, Kaken." "I know that, you nerd. God, sometimes you're an insufferable know-it-all." "You say that like you aren't one," Izuku counters, grinning when Katsuki sputters at him. The blonde boy harumphs and stomps off to their classroom. Izuku changes into his school shoes and follows him serenely. Their classmates chatter noisily amongst themselves while they wait for their homeroom teacher to arrive. Izuku spies a small purple glass butterfly dangling from the strap of one girl's bag, and smiles to himself. He had made that for her, he remembers. Looking around, he can see a few other students sporting or carrying his gifts. It makes Izuku's heart swell with pride that he was able to help all these people. The door slides open and their homeroom teacher strides in. "All right, settle down, settle down. Today we will be going over your future career paths," he says, slapping a sheaf of papers down on his desk at the front of the room. Everyone instantly straightens up and looks at least partially attentive. The teacher sweeps over the room with a critical eye. Oh, who am I trying to fool? With your quirks, you probably all want to be heroes, he proclaims loudly, throwing his papers into the air. His exclamation is met with raucous cheers, the students activating and showing off their quirks for several seconds. Izuku doesn't stand up and yell with the rest. There's no need. The thud of a fist slamming down on a desk catches everyone's attention. Will you shut the hell up already? As if UFS could be anything more than dumb sidekicks with your lame-butt quirks. Katsuki barks, his palms sizzling in warning. Izuku facepalms at the aggressive display and reminds himself to cleanse Kaken again later. Frankly, he's lost track of how many marbles and sculptures he's made from his childhood friend's irritation by now. Of course, some of their classmates didn't take his statement well. What did you just say, Bakugo? Yeah, who do you think you are? Stop calling us extras, we can be heroes too. Their teacher clears his throat. Quiet, he interjects, interrupting their yelling. Both Bakugo and Midoriya are aiming to get into Yui High School, which is very impressive. The chatter starts up again, but this time it's full of awe and disbelief. Half the class swivels around to stare at Izuku too, which is mildly uncomfortable. He smiles at them anyways and raises a hand to do a little wave. The boy on Izuku's left leans towards him. Whoa, I can't believe you guys are trying to get into such a prestigious school. Isn't the entrance exam supposed to be like, super tough, he asks, his eyes shining excitedly. Izuku nods. Yui is the top high school in Japan for heroics, after all. But that doesn't mean that they slack off in the other departments either. The written exam is said to be equally as tough as the physical heroics exam, but Kaken and I can do it, he says confidently. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, we're going to FING do it. And you side characters can just sit back and watch, Katsuki snipes from his seat. Kaken, Izuku sighs, exasperated. Katsuki crosses his arms stubbornly. Thankfully their classmates are too awed by the announcement of their choice of high school to be offended again by Katsuki's callous remarks. Izuku packs up his books at the end of the day, struggling not to crush any of the letters that had been slipped into his shoe locker earlier. He'll read them once he gets home. If any of them happen to be confession letters, well, whoops. He doesn't want to stand anyone up without giving them a proper rejection, but he's got Aikido after school today with Yoshida-sensei and that's something he can't afford to miss. Hurry up, Deku! Katsuki yells from the doorway. It's tradition for them to walk home together most days, or even just to the school gate when Izuku needs to go to his Aikido lessons. The green-haired boy isn't quite sure how it started, but he presumes it has something to do with Katsuki's self-proclaimed role as Izuku's protector. Izuku zips up his bag with minor difficulty and walks over, saying, "Coming, Kaken. You could stand to be more patient though, you know. F off." Ah, the joys of friendship. When they reach the campus gate, a voice calls out to him, "Izuku. Over here." Suzume bounces on the ball of her feet, her braided black hair whipping around behind her. She's clad in her own school uniform, the gray and white blazer and skirt combo of a nearby junior high school, complete with a bright red bow tie secured just below the crisp white collar of her shirt. She waves. "Hey, Suzume," Izuku greets her, smiling. "Ready for another butt kicking from Yoshida-sensei?" "Oh, stop it, you know he'd send you flying if he heard you say that," she laughs, lightly slapping him on the shoulder. She turns and regards Katsuki with a decidedly less excited look. "Bakugo. You can leave now, I'll make sure Izuku makes it to the dojo in one piece. Eat sheet and die, shitty headband." Katsuki predictably explodes at the blunt dismissal. Charming as always, flashy McBlasty, Suzume responds dryly, grabbing Izuku's arm and steering him away from the fuming blonde. "Come on, Izuku, let's leave the grumpy puppy alone. You can go off a cliff." Katsuki hollers, metaphorical steam whistling out of his ears. The students of Aldera Junior High give them long stares at the commotion, but upon seeing that it involves Bakugo Katsuki, they wisely opt to get the hell out of the way. Izuku needs to do something about this situation. Wait a second, Suzume. I can't leave Kaken like this, he says, gently shaking the girl's hand off his arm. She pouts, but doesn't stop him. He takes a few steps back towards his childhood friend. "Kaken, give me your hand." Katsuki doesn't move, his burning red eyes still narrowed irately at the annoying girl sticking her tongue out at him over Izuku's shoulder. "Kaken. Give me your hand," Izuku repeats firmly. With a growl, Katsuki roughly moves a hand forward. Izuku takes it, barely blinking as the dark world of his quirk settles around him. The familiar pulsing red core of Kaken's anger beats in front of him. It is a familiar sight by now, albeit maybe a tad larger this time than the last time he had to deal with it. Izuku pulls it out once more and hands the explosive boy a delicate glass bomb, crimson smoke and glorious yellow ribbons frozen inside its spherical body. Izuku even shapes the tip of the wick to look like it's lit with a flame. Mind your temper, okay, Kaken? Izuku advises with a smile. Katsuki huffs. Then see you tomorrow. Katsuki trudges away with considerably less angry steps, the glass sculpture cradled carefully in the palm of his hand. He tucks it away in his bag so that he doesn't accidentally explode it and make Izuku sad over the destruction of his creation. It had happened once when they were kids. He's still not over the face that Izuku had made when the glass marble shattered against the floor. Izuku, let's go. We don't want to be late, Suzume says, looping her arm through his and skipping down the street. Izuku has to walk at a faster pace to avoid being dragged along. They chatter about their respective days on their way to the dojo. Suzume complains about the amount of homework she has to do even though their last year as junior high students has just barely started. They're children of the devil, Izuku. I'm telling you, save yourself, she groans, miming falling to the ground in a depressed state. It can't be that bad, Izuku says, thinking about all the times he and Kaken stayed up late to finish their assignments together. They aren't the top 2 students in their year for nothing. Don't lump me in with you night owls, the black-haired teenager retorts, smacking Izuku on the arm. I swear the bags under my eyes get bigger every day. Izuku peers suspiciously at her face. I don't see any bags, he remarks slowly. Your eyeliner is definitely on point, though. Why, thank you. By the way, it's called concealer, Izuku, Suzume says pleasantly. As they walk through an underpass, cool shadows falling over them, Izuku suddenly feels chills down his spine. Something's off. Something's wrong. He can't explain it, but... Izuku? Suzume questions, just as the manhole cover they had passed bursts open with an ominous clang. Both students instantly whirl around to face the enemy. Izuku drops into a defensive stance, Suzume falling into step behind him. She takes off her elastic pink headband, embroidered with the word fight, in gold thread, and secures it around her arm. Well, look at what we have here, a sickly voice echoes through the underpass. Both Izuku and Suzume stare in horror as mud-brown slime begins to ooze out of the opening, 2 bloodshot yellow eyes slipping and sliding along with the viscous goop. It smells about as delightful as a rotting carcass left out in the sun for a month. Its disembodied voice speaks up again, I've lost my actual body and I need a new one. Which of you shall I use? There's no warning when it attacks. Izuku barely dives out of the way, somersaulting back to his feet quickly. Suzume screams when the slime encases one of her legs and yanks her to the ground. Her shoulder hits the cement with a hard thud, causing her to let out a pained yelp. Suzume! Izuku calls out. Sheet, this villain is made of sludge, would his quirk even work on someone like this? Let go of me. Suzume yells, activating her quirk. Her braid grows 2 extra meters in length and slams into the slime, splattering the villain across the underpass. Her leg is freed in the process and she wastes no time scrambling to her feet. Howdareyu, it growls threateningly, recollecting itself. It rears up, the thick smell of sewage filling the air. It makes Izuku GG into his black uniform sleeve, his eyes watering at the pungent odor. Watch out! Suzume shouts a warning as the villain attacks again. This time Izuku isn't fast enough to completely dodge out of the way. A wave of sludge overtakes him, trapping his arms against his sides. He struggles as hard as he can in the thing's grip, slapping his hands furiously against the slime. But his quirk fails to activate. Suzume's hair comes whipping through the air, deadly as a striking snake. She slices through part of the goop encasing Izuku's body, but it's not enough. The villain just reforms. It cackles madly at their pathetic attempts to stop it. Suzume desperately tries to free him, but she winds up slipping on a small patch of sludge on the ground and falls victim to the enemy's grasp as well. Izuku chokes as the villain forces his mouth open and starts slithering down his throat. He can't breathe. Distantly he hears Suzume crying, Izuku. Izuku. Something feels like it breaks inside of him. A shrill sound pierces through his brain, a sound like the strike of a metal spoon against porcelain mixed with the sound of glass shattering into thousands of tiny shards. Something ugly festers in his chest, an acrid taste lingering against his tongue, and he knows that it's fear. He knows fear like the back of his hand, and it's his own. He can feel it. He knows. Izuku cannot use his hands and he is on the brink of unconsciousness, but he can still use his quirk. This time he doesn't pull. He pushes. The villain shrieks as something sharp spears through it, like 1,000 vengeful needles. It lets go of Izuku, who falls to the ground hacking and coughing and wheezing as he attempts to get oxygen back into his rattled lungs. He looks up to see that Suzume is still trapped in its clutches. Her brown eyes are wide open and so very afraid, but she can no longer scream with the muck slapped over her mouth. She reaches out for Izuku one more time. Tears trickle down her cheeks as she lets out a muffled sob. The green-haired boy grits his teeth and rolls to his feet, something hot and dark boiling through his blood, waiting to be unleashed. It's angry and it's seething and it longs for bloodshed and battle. But he doesn't get the chance to use his newfound ability, because suddenly a sewer lid frisbees through the air and blasts the villain away. A very tall, very mighty, and very familiar form catches Suzume before she hits the ground. Izuku freezes in shock because there's no way that All Might, the #1 hero and symbol of peace, could possibly be standing in front of him right now. It's all right now, young students. Why? Because I am here, the trademark saying of Izuku's favorite hero booms loud and hearty from their savior. Izuku nearly faints. All Might, he yells, in an embarrassingly high-pitched voice. Suzume laughs from her position curled up in All Might's arms. She's so small compared to the muscular hero, her voice cracking and fragile sounding after their frightening encounter with the sludge villain, but she's alive. Whatever chaos had started to simmer in his blood quiets down to nothingness. He walks towards All Might. And holds out his arms. Thank you for saving us, All Might. I can take her now, he says, still mesmerized by the hero's blinding smile. His teeth are very white. It was no problem, young boy. I'll never ignore those who are in need of assistance. All Might declares, bending down to deposit Suzume into Izuku's arms. He helps her stand upright, and doesn't say a word when she clings to him tightly, her legs quivering like a newborn fawn's. All Might turns away from them and pulls out a large, empty soda bottle. He scoops bits of the villainous slime into the bottle before the menace can escape. One hand slaps the cap down on the opening and seals the villain's fate. I have apprehended the villain. Fear not, you are both safe now, he reassures them, never letting his grin drop. It's eerie to see the villain's yellow eyes squished against the sides of the bottle, so Izuku pointedly doesn't look in that direction. Are either of you injured at all? Just my shoulder, but it's not too bad, Suzume replies, putting on a brave face. Her smile is a bit tremulous, but to his credit, All Might doesn't comment on it. No injury should be left unchecked, young lady. Please get it looked at by a doctor, the hero says kindly. Well then, I should get going to the police station. Wait. Izuku steadies Suzume as best he can. She wobbles a bit when she lets go of him, but he's relieved when she manages to stay upright. He jogs over to his fallen backpack, which had been thrown to the side of the underpass when he had tried to dodge the villain's attack. In his haste to grab his hero analysis notebook, he spills half of the letters on the ground. No. Let me give you a hand with that. All Might offers, crouching down beside the green-haired boy. He sets the bottle down as he helps Izuku scoop up the letters. You don't have to do this for me, but thank you, Izuku says. Once all the letters have been stuffed back into his bag, Izuku takes out a pen and moves his open notebook towards the pro-hero. Can I have your autograph? Please, he adds. Of course, young boy. What's your name? All Might asks, taking the pen and notebook and standing back up. Midoriya Izuku, sir. Hey, I want one too. Suzume chimes in. If you don't mind, Izuku. Not at all. All Might scribbles something on the open page, then flips to the next one. And what's your name, young lady, he asks, the pen poised over the notebook. Shirogane Suzume, sir. The muscular hero waves a hand in the air. No need to call me, sir, that makes me feel quite old, he chuckles, signing Suzume's autograph. He hands the notebook back to Izuku, who looks at him with shining eyes. I really must be going now. Take care, young Midoriya, young Shirogane. Don't forget to get your shoulder checked. And he leaps off into the sky, a small bit of smoke trailing from his boots as he ascends, and disappears over a tall building in a matter of seconds. The two junior high students stare after him with twin starstruck expressions. That's when they both realize that All Might forgot to take the bottle holding the sludge villain captive. Oh no! We totally distracted him. What do we do, Izuku? Suzume frets. She makes no move to pick the bottle up, which Izuku can't fault her for. He puts the notebook with All Might's autographs in it away so he won't ruin it. Well, All Might was going to bring it to the police, right? I guess we could do it instead, Izuku replies, trotting over to the bottle and giving it a nudge with his shoe. The brown goop gives him the stink eye, but doesn't do anything else. Izuku gingerly picks up the bottle. The smell is marginally better than when the villain was free, but he still holds it away from his body. Suzume checks her phone and gasps loudly, shoot. We're late to Yoshida-sensei's lesson today. Sheet, Izuku completely forgot about his Aikido class in all the excitement. You go on ahead and let Yoshida-sensei know what happened. I'll drop this off at the police station, he says. His friend hesitates, looking fearfully at the soda bottle. Will you be okay with that? She queries. Izuku moves over to her, making sure to hide the bottle from her view. He gently puts his free hand on her good shoulder. Hey, he murmurs, looking her right in the eye and smiling. Mind if I? She nods. The opaque black core of Suzume's fear ripples with waves of violet flames, the oppressive atmosphere nearly crushing in its intensity. Thin, ragged chains of navy blue and gray undulate through the dark space, loose ends snapping in the air. Izuku has seen fear in people before, but never has he encountered a fear core so depressing. It makes him a little mad that Suzume had to experience such a traumatic encounter with a villain. In the span of a few minutes, a fear core bigger than his fist had formed inside of her. God, if All Might hadn't intervened? He shakes his head. Now is not the time to dwell on what happened. He reaches out a hand and pulls out the fear. When Izuku blinks back to reality, Suzume had stopped shaking. He places the marble, smoky and black, ripples of dark amethyst and hazy gray curling around each other to form a misty rose, into her open palm. She smiles in relief and hugs him again. Thank you, Izuku, she says. She pulls away to dig around in her bag for her cosmetics pouch. She groans when she gives herself a once-over with her mirror. Ugh, my makeup is ruined. You know Yoshida-sensei won't care, he responds. I care. Suzume fixes herself up as best she can in a few minutes. She turns back to Izuku. You should get going. I think I'll be fine getting to the dojo by myself. Alright, be careful. See you later, Suzume. Izuku bids her goodbye as they walk out of the underpass together and go their separate ways. He holds the soda bottle tightly so he doesn't drop it. Of course, it's just his luck that 5 minutes later, someone runs full speed around the corner. Ahead of him and knocks him to the ground. The bottle holding the sludge villain captive goes flying. Watch where you're going, brat, the burly man who had knocked him over spits at him. Sorry, sir, but isn't it dangerous to run through the streets so fast? Someone could get hurt, Izuku says, dusting himself off as he gets back to his feet. The man puffs up indignantly. Are you calling me irresponsible? I'll have you know, he starts, taking a single threatening step towards Izuku. Oh boy, he could get in trouble for this, but this person needs some help. Izuku startles the man by lunging forward and slapping a hand on his hairy arm. Reality falls away, replaced by cool shadows and a thrumming core of fiery anger, tinged with green envy. Unlike Kaken's anger core, small will-o-wisps drift aimlessly in the dark space, only combusting when they float near the core. This man's got a lot of frustration pent up. Time to help him release some of that unhealthy tension. When Izuku's consciousness returns to the real world, the chubby man is no longer looking at him with irritation, but surprise. What did you do to me? He asks, sounding confused. I feel like a new man. Izuku's newest creation is round and smooth, the transparent surface of the glass showing whorls of deep green coiling around a red, bird-like figure in the center. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, he thinks. Izuku hands him the marble. My quirk allows me to pull negative emotions out of people and solidify them, he explains. I hope this helps you be a better person. The man stares at the marble sitting on his palm. I should scold you for using your quirk in public, he says evenly. But I won't, because you really helped me out. I didn't realize that I was so angry before. Thank you, young man. The man carefully puts the marble into one of his pockets. He continues, your quirk would be a great asset if you ever decide to become a therapist or a hero. Izuku grins brightly. I'm going to be a hero, he says confidently. You are? Wonderful. Good luck, young man, you'll be a great hero with that quirk, the man replies, giving him a nod. Izuku gives him a mock salute, and then the man turns around to amble away, a noticeable spring in his step that wasn't there before. Izuku really loves his quirk. Unfortunately, it's also at that moment that Izuku remembers about the sludge villain. He panics when he realizes that the soda bottle is nowhere to be seen. Oh shit, this is bad. Izuku vaguely recalls letting go of the bottle when the man had crashed into him, but he doesn't know where it went. He looks all around himself, no bottle in sight, examines every nook and cranny of his surroundings, no bottle, no nothing, and finally locates it half hidden behind the dirty dumpster of a nearby alleyway. It's empty. The villain has already made its escape. Shit. This is so bad. Let All Might strike him down where he stands, he can't be forgiven for this. Travesty. The villain could be anywhere by now. Izuku doesn't think he has any chance of tracking it down. What does he do now? Does he continue on to the police station and give them a description of the villain and hope for the best? Does he go to a pro-heroes agency and alert them? Should he try tracking the villain down himself? No, that would be too risky. He almost fell victim to the sludge the first time, and that's when he was with Suzume. But there should be clues as to which possible direction it went. It is made of slime, after all. Maybe not quite slime, more like a horrible amalgamation of muck, sewage ooze, and toxic sludge. Something like that should leave a trail, like how a snail leaves a shiny trail on the ground as it moves. Now that he thinks about it, why is the villain in that form in the first place? Wouldn't it be easier to hide in the crowd with a human body? Oh wait, it mentioned something about losing its physical body and that's why it was looking for someone to possess. So all he's got to do is check for clues, right? Yes, let's see, disregarding the dirty soda bottle on the ground, he's sure he can, smell the lingering remnants of the villain's presence. And he should really stop mumbling to himself, it's earning him more than a few odd looks from the passers-by. Izuku takes a few steps forward to examine the entrance of the alleyway, but doesn't get more than a few sentences into his analysis when the sound of an explosion goes off in the distance. He pauses, his muscles tensing up. He listens intently. Pop, pop, boom. Pop, pop, boom. Izuku's blood turns to ice. No. No, no, no. Explosions. He's hearing the sound of explosions. The villain was looking for someone to control, but where there's explosions, there's Kaken. Later, Izuku won't be able to recall how he got from point A to point B so quickly. All that he knows is that his childhood friend is in grave danger and he has to get to him now. In what seems like the blink of an eye, he arrives at the scene. A crowd has formed, kept back by the few heroes on site. The sludge villain is just ahead, and Katsuki is trapped in its monstrous clutches like Izuku feared. He's struggling his hardest to break free, but even his natural strength isn't enough to fight the criminal off. Izuku's stomach lurches as a wave of fear slams into him, so strong and harsh and violent that he can feel it all the way down to his bones. Kaken is hurting, oh god, he's hurting so bad, he needs help, he's suffocating, he's hurting so bad. Yet the pro-heroes aren't doing anything but keeping the civilians out of range of the explosions. They talk to each other in hushed tones about the situation, but for some reason they won't take action. Fire rages on the fringes of the scene, caused by the villain taking advantage of Katsuki's quirk to destroy the things around them. Why aren't they helping him? What are they doing? He thinks silently, halting at the back of the crowd. And where is All Might? Izuku only spares a few precious seconds on those thoughts. If the heroes aren't going to help his friend, then he will. His decision to intervene is further justified when Katsuki opens his eyes and looks past the crowd, straight at Izuku. Help me. The burning red eyes that Izuku is so familiar with are now filled with pure fear. Katsuki is so afraid. It's not a good look for the boisterous boy. The hot, dark thing in his blood stirs once more. Izuku feels angry. This villain has hurt him, it has hurt his Aikido friend, and now it is hurting Kaken. It needs to be stopped. Before he can jump into the fray like a reckless idiot with no plan other than to save Katsuki from becoming a sludge puppet, he feels a powerful new emotion blast him from the other side of the crowd. He freezes. This wave of emotion isn't coming from Katsuki. It's not fear, it's guilt? Yes, guilt. It's the strongest guilt he's ever felt in his life. It's mixed with a little frustration and self-hatred, which tells Izuku a lot. There's someone in the crowd, presumably a hero, who is looking on and feels horrifyingly guilty about not being able to help. Izuku scans the pro-heroes holding the line up front, but while they do feel a little guilty about not being able to do their jobs properly, they aren't the ones emanating it so intensely. He turns his head, and his eyes land on an emaciated figure standing a little ways away. Gaunt, sickly looking, with a head of wild blonde hair, a sharp chin, and electric blue irises set against black scara, baggy clothes hanging off his stick-thin frame, Izuku has absolutely no clue who this man is. He looks like no pro-hero Izuku has ever seen before, and yet, he's the one who feels so violently guilty about this situation. Nothing adds up. But Izuku has the strangest feeling that despite his appearance, this man can help. He looks back to Katsuki, who's now crying, as if that didn't make Izuku want to beat the sheet out of the villain in rage. Because Kaken isn't a crier, he doesn't like to show his weaknesses in public so blatantly, and mouth silently, "Wait for me." Katsuki is trapped and helpless, but he gives a barely imperceptible nod. Izuku approaches the strange man with speed and determination. "Excuse me," he says quietly, touching the man's bony arm. The blond man jumps and looks at him with wide eyes. "Young man. How can I help you?" he asks. Izuku catches the slip up, but doesn't think it's important at the moment. "I don't know who you are, but please let me help you with your guilt, so that you can save my friend," he says instead. "Please." What the man starts to say, but Izuku activates his quirk and doesn't hear the rest of the words as the world falls away. Izuku isn't sure what he's expecting when he examines the man's guilt core, but it isn't this massive, throbbing sphere the color of rotting egg yolk, sickly gray tendrils of smoke creeping over the surface like weeds. Black chains of self-hatred drape over the top, some of the links jagged and broken, seeming to drip with tiny shards, yet never fading away. The scarlet flame of anger smolders beneath the core. And there's also the gray ashes of bitterness scattered around, hanging in the air like some sort of deadly plague. It's disconcerting to see such a distorted core. Who is this man? Izuku pulls on the core, but it's so large that it actually resists. He has to practically yank on the connection with double the amount of force before it moves. He's never had to exert so much energy to pull out a core before. As he returns to reality, he feels unusually exhausted. The glass sculpture he produces as a result is bigger than his head. This time it's a fierce lion, its wild mane alight with the fiery colors. The body is sleek, with intertwining ribbons of sunflower yellow and charcoal black. Its eyes are as bright and blue as the gaunt man's. Izuku quickly sets it on the ground before he drops it. The man is staring at him, mouth agape. Izuku gazes back at him grimly. "Please save my friend," he repeats. The man closes his mouth and nods. He sets a skeletal hand on Izuku's shoulder. "Say no more, young Midoriya," he responds seriously. Izuku's eyes nearly bug out of his skull at the way the man addresses him the same way All Might called him not even an hour prior, holy Quirk in a hand basket. The sickly figure disappears behind a corner, and seconds later the familiar muscular form of the number one hero descends upon the villain and wrenches the blonde boy out of its grasp. The crowd cheers loudly at his appearance. Izuku dashes forward as All Might puts Katsuki, coughing and trembling and so very furious, to the side before he sets about dealing with the sludge villain once more. He pulls back his right arm, bulking up impressively before he unleashes a punch so powerful that the villain is blown to smithereens. Detroit smash. Everyone stares, gobsmacked, as the shockwave generated by All Might's smash attack pierces straight through the stratosphere and summons dark gray clouds, which gather in the sky above Musutafu. Izuku blinks as a few drops of water fall on his face. The rain has come, it will wash away the last traces of the evil sludge that terrorized the streets of Musutafu. It seems to hit him, finally, that the terrible villain has been defeated and it can no longer hurt him or his friends ever again. For once, Katsuki doesn't protest much when Izuku hugs him tightly, even as the rain begins to fall in earnest, to the crowd's surprise. He's had too many scares today to care. Quality is not an act, it is a habit. Aristotle. Afterwards, the paramedics come to check on Katsuki's condition. Izuku is reluctant to let him go, but he knows exactly how suffocating it was with the sludge villain cutting off his oxygen, so he only puts up a token protest. The pro-heroes on site praise Katsuki's bravery in the face of such danger. They also tell Izuku that he's being a wonderful friend comforting the blonde boy after his traumatic experience. Katsuki yells at them not to touch him so much, that he's fine, that they need to back the hell up and give him some goddamn space. Izuku tries not to feel too pleased about the fact that Katsuki didn't protest this much when he was hugging him. The civilians who had been watching the scene of the crime slowly disperse, going back to their everyday lives. That was probably the most exciting part of their day. "Hey, where did All Might go?" someone calls out in confusion. Izuku looks around, but the number one hero had vanished as quickly as he had come. He wonders if he'll see that gaunt-looking man again, especially if that man and All Might were the same person. He's still shocked by the sheer amount of guilt that he had carried within him. For most of his life, the people around him have been guilty of small-time things, like stealing a pencil, his classmates, or accidentally breaking something, a kid dropping a flower pot, or being unable to help someone, those pro-heroes who hadn't tried to help Kaken. Not a single one of them had ever projected a wave of guilt so powerful that it had physically stopped Izuku in his tracks. Even heroes aren't perfect, he supposes. Even heroes like All Might. Once Katsuki has been deemed okay by the medics, he and Izuku walk away from the scene. The rainfall generated by All Might's attack has slowed to a light and steady sprinkle, which means that they don't have to find cover for the trek back home. "Oh, I forgot to tell Susan what happened," Izuku says, digging into his pocket for his phone. "That shitty headband doesn't need to know," Katsuki gripes half-heartedly. If Izuku was a lesser person, he would not have noticed the subtle tremors shaking in his childhood friend's limbs. But he does. Izuku breathes in deeply, then out. In and out. In and out. Drops his phone back into his pocket and turns to face Katsuki on the sidewalk. "Kaken," he says evenly, reaching out for Katsuki's arm. He frowns when he catches the blonde suppress a flinch at the contact. "What?" the blonde mumbles, pointedly avoiding eye contact with Izuku. Well, he's not gonna be having any of that now, not when his quirk is made for this kind of purpose. He slowly and purposefully moves so that he's standing in front of the explosive boy. Instead of reaching for his friend, he simply holds his hand out, palm up, and waits. Katsuki stares mulishly at his outstretched hand. He doesn't take it at first, but Izuku grew up with him and has a near-infinite amount of patience in dealing with him. He just waits, even as his arm starts to grow tired from hanging in the air. The blonde boy finally slaps a rough hand over Izuku's, growling, "Fine, we'll get this bullcrap over with. Ya happy?" "Never better," Izuku says pleasantly, as if discussing the weather. Then he activates his quirk. Despite anticipating seeing an entirely different emotional core than Katsuki's constant anger, Izuku is still taken aback by what he is greeted with when the world falls away from him. He stares at the new core for a few seconds, feeling sick to his stomach. It's a fear core, but unlike Suzume's, Kaken's is sheer black and reflects no light at all. It's almost like staring into a void and seeing nothing looking back. A few cracks spiderweb across the matte black surface, bright red flames of anger attempting to burst their way out, but they are quickly smothered. The entire core is restricted by thick chains the color of muddy water, which spasm at random intervals and seem to melt onto the core like goop, but even those are swallowed by the abyss. A dark gray mist seeps slowly out of the bottom of the core, like a poisonous fog that will rob precious air from all those who breathe it in. Izuku is absolutely horrified. He almost wishes that the sludge villain was still alive so that he could witness All Might smashing it into oblivion again and again. How dare that thing do this to Kaken? His childhood friend, for all his bravado, is still a bit delicate inside. Izuku can't leave him like this. Who knows how badly damaged Katsuki's mentality is with this fear core inside of him. The rage bubbles underneath his skin again, making him want to lash out, but no, that is something for another time and place. He pulls on the hideous core without any further hesitation. Back in the real world, Izuku holds his newest creation up for inspection. Katsuki examines it with surly eyes. It's an ebony war horse with twin flames for eyes, standing tall and proud. Tiny, subtle lines of yellow and red twine down the length of its mane and spine, ending at the base of its tail. As Izuku moves to hand the glass sculpture to his friend, he is pleased to note that Kaken is no longer trembling. He really loves his quirk. "I'm going to the dojo to let Suzume and Yoshida-sensei know what happened," he says, taking his phone back out of his pocket. He winces when he sees that he has several missed calls and text messages from Suzume, his mom, and Auntie Mitsuki. Katsuki stows his newest gift in his bag before he digs out his own phone, his eyebrows pinching together when he looks at the screen. "I should go home. The hag is probably worried," he mutters, sending a quick message off to his parents to let them know that he's still alive and not in the hospital. Izuku hides a smile as Katsuki's phone instantly lights up with an incoming call from Mom. "What do you want, hag?" Katsuki answers his phone grumpily. "Oh, thank FING God you're alive, Katsuki," Mitsuki's voice blares out of the speaker. "I saw the news just now and DMN near had a heart attack, you little sheet. Where are you right now? Is Izuku-kun with you?" "I'm about to come home, and yeah, Deku is right here," the blonde says. He pauses, then says in a really quiet voice that Izuku rarely hears from him, "Sorry for worrying you." Izuku turns away so that he doesn't eavesdrop on their private conversation any longer. He focuses on replying to his own messages. His mom picks up on the first ring. "Izuku?" "Hey, Mom," Izuku says. "Don't worry, Kaken and I are fine." He hears a loud sniffle through the speaker and holds back a sigh. "Ah, Mom, don't cry, we're fine." "Really? Baby, I'm just so glad to hear your voice," Inko blubbers. "Mitsuki called me earlier, you two are on TV. And you know, I panicked because I thought you were supposed to be at your Aikido lesson today, so what could you possibly be doing there and oh god, is Katsuki-kun alright, the poor dear, he must have had quite the scare." "Mom, take a deep breath, geez," Izuku interjects, exasperated. "Kaken and I are okay. I wasn't at Aikido because," he pauses for a split second, thinking that perhaps he should omit the fact that he and Suzume were attacked by the same villain, "because Suzume and I met All Might on our way to the dojo. I met All Might, Mom, I even got his autograph. He's even cooler in person," he gabbles excitedly, flapping his free hand around even though his mom definitely couldn't see him over the phone. An incredulous screech came through the speaker. "What? Oh, Izuku, I'm so happy for you. My son meeting the #1 hero, oh my." Izuku grins, unable to help himself. From the corner of his eye, he sees Katsuki hanging up and hurries to finish his own conversation. "I'm going to the dojo now to talk to Yoshida-sensei. I'll see you later, Mom," he says. "Please stay safe, baby," Inko replies. "Be sure to tell me all about your meeting with All Might when you come home." "I will," Izuku promises. Then he ends the call and turns back to his friend. Katsuki stares at him with an unreadable expression, well, unreadable to everyone but him. He grew up with the explosive boy, and right now those burning red eyes were practically screaming, "Fess the F up before I blow off your FING face." Not that that would enable Izuku to speak any more than he currently could. "You heard me talking about All Might, didn't you?" Izuku guesses. Katsuki crosses his arms expectantly, tilting his chin up ever so slightly. And, he prompts. I know you had something to do with All Might crashing onto the scene at just the right FING time. I ain't stupid, Deku. Are you going to spit it out or not? The freckled boy sighs, absently scratching his head. You know I can't keep secrets from you, Kaken, but I don't think now is a good time to tell you. I mean, this is All Might we're talking about. I'll, let you know what happened later, he says sheepishly. Katsuki looks appropriately mutinous, but doesn't try to push Izuku for more details, for which Izuku is thankful. He really isn't sure how to say that he thinks he met and helped All Might in his civilian form. Fine, keep your FING secrets, you nerd, Katsuki grouses. He roughly JRKS his head towards a familiar side street. I should get home anyways. The hag's waiting for me. Izuku translates that as, I'm scared and I want my mom to hug me. Alright, maybe he took some creative liberties with that, but basically, Katsuki's parents are probably freaking out and want their son to come home so they could fuss over him. His mom would be the same way if he had been the one reported on the news as the victim. I'm gonna head to the dojo. See you tomorrow, Kaken, Izuku says, smiling. Katsuki just grunts at him and slouches off back to his house. The green-haired student looks at his phone again. If he hurries, he can probably catch Yoshida-sensei and Suzume before their Aikido master closes up his practice for the day. He's got a lot to say. He's barely taken 10 steps when a hushed voice whispers, Ahem, young Midoriya. Over here. Izuku blinks in confusion as the sickly blonde man from before steps out from behind the corner of a building. Are you? He begins. The man looks around for a couple of seconds before he nods. Yes, this is my true form. You can call me Tashinori, he says. All Might is no longer a form that I can maintain all day, thanks to an old injury I received from my nemesis 5 years ago. He lifts up part of his baggy white shirt. Izuku winces at the enormous puckered scar stretching over the man's left side. He vaguely remembers a mass media speculation over All Might's temporary disappearance out of the spotlight 5 years ago, but he hadn't thought that it had been due to a near-fatal injury. Actually, he's pretty sure that the only reason his hero survived that is because he's All Might. All Might Tashinori-san, he thinks, drops his shirt back down to cover the ugly scar. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that this is classified information, of course, he continues. But I believe you are a trustworthy boy. What is your quirk, young Midoriya? I hope you don't mind an old man's curiosity. Izuku shakes his head frantically, waving his hands back and forth so fast that they look like a blur. Oh no, not at all, sir. You're all I mean, you're my hero, I wouldn't ever dream of refusing you, he says earnestly, his green eyes shining brightly. My quirk, you won't report me to the police or anything for using it in public, right? Because I know that technically we're not allowed to use them outside of authorized areas, except for those with mutation quirks who can't help it, you know? Oh gosh, I totally used my quirk on you without asking, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, wait, I'm the whole reason that slime villain escaped in the first place, after you caught him and everything, I'm so sorry, just strike me down where I stand. Young Midoriya, it's not your fault. Almi Tashinori interjects, reaching out to clap a skeletal hand on his shoulder. Please calm down, Gak. The green-haired teenager was completely horrified by the spray of blood that spewed out of Tashinori's mouth. Oh my god, you're bleeding. Do I need to call an ambulance? Don't strain yourself on my account, please. Izuku frets, torn between dialing the emergency number and making sure that his hero is okay. Tashinori holds up one hand, the other covering his mouth with a worn handkerchief. Wait, don't call an ambulance. This is normal for me, he coughs. This is normal? Izuku feels faint. Tashinori hacks into the small black cloth a couple more times before he straightens back up. Yes, my boy, a mere side effect of the injury, he explains, casually wiping away the spot of blood staining the corners of his mouth red before he tucks the handkerchief away. His eyes are very blue in this form. In his hero form, Izuku has only ever seen shadows above his blindingly white smile. They suit him, he thinks. Anyways, as I was asking, what is your quirk, young Midoriya? Oh, that's right. My quirk allows me to see a person's negative emotions when I touch them. How should I say this? Basically, when I physically contact someone, I can see the core of their strongest emotion and I can pull it out of them to create marbles, or more recently, glass sculptures. By taking away the negative, there is more room for positivity and the people I help no longer feel burdened by their own insecurities. It doesn't mean that they can't feel those emotions again, but I think in the moment they're all the better for it, Izuku answers. He runs a nervous hand through his messy curls. Does that make sense? I know it's pretty unusual for a quirk. The gaunt hero absently strokes his pointed chin. Yes, that does explain some things, he agrees, smiling. Thank you for the lion sculpture, by the way. You did well, my boy. Izuku can't help but beam at the praise. Thank you, sir. Tell me, are you thinking of going into the heroics industry? Toshinori questions. Of course. Being a pro hero is my dream. Izuku gushes enthusiastically. Wonderful. That's the kind of spirit I like to see, the thin man says. He clears his throat. What about your friend who I rescued? Oh, Kaken? Yeah, we're going to apply to the Yui Heroics department together, Izuku answers. Toshinori claps his hands together. Excellent. I hope to see you there, young Midoriya. Beginning with the next school year, I will be joining Yui as part of their teaching faculty. Izuku goggles at him for a good few seconds. His favorite hero is going to teach at Yui, the school of his dreams. Now he has to get in. He just got the biggest incentive for it. If he doesn't get into the heroics department, he'll feel like he let All Might down, and that simply won't do. I'll definitely get in. Just watch me, Toshinori-san. No, Toshinori-sensei. Izuku exclaims, pumping a single fist skyward. He's practically vibrating in his shoes in excitement. The blonde man chuckles and reaches out to ruffle Izuku's hair. Just Toshinori is fine, you know, he says warmly. Then he steps back. Well, I must be going now. I have a feeling that you're going to be an amazing hero, young Midoriya. Keep up the good work. Aye, sir. Izuku salutes him smartly, and watches his hero walk away until he disappears into the distance. He has to resist the urge to scream happily and start dancing in the middle of the empty street. All Might knows him. All Might praised him. All Might believes in him. Izuku is in heaven. His ringtone abruptly startles him out of his euphoric mood. Oh shit, I totally forgot about getting to the dojo, he mutters, noting that the caller was Suzume. He picks up, gingerly holding the receiver slightly away from his ear. Hey, Suzu. Midoriya Izuku. You are in so much trouble, young man. Suzume screams over the phone, causing him to hastily yank the phone away. He's definitely in for it now. When no other yelling comes through, he cautiously holds the phone back up to his ear. Sorry, a lot of things came up, Izuku says apologetically. Are you still at the dojo? Yeah, but I'm about to leave. You've got a lot of explaining to do. I thought you were just going to drop off the villain at the police station, then I find out that monster somehow got free and attacked Bakugo. And you were there, too. What the heck, Izuku? Suzume cries. Ahaha, Izuku lets out a half-hearted laugh. His friend sounds really upset. I'm sorry. I promise that I'm not hurt, though. Kaken's fine, too. She heaves a great sigh. Well, I'm glad that you didn't get caught by that villain again. Once is one too many times already, she mutters. Anyways, Yoshida-sensei knows what happened and he said that you're excused for today. Great, thanks. Want to grab some food from our usual burger place? I'll tell you what happened, Izuku suggests. You're paying, Suzume says immediately. Izuku feigns a groan, but really, he expects no less. The next day at school, both Izuku and Katsuki are bombarded with questions about the slime villain incident, despite their teacher's warnings to keep quiet on the subject. It gets to the point where even Izuku is feeling more than a little irritated by their classmates' incessant nosiness. They finally get the hint to stop asking when Katsuki nearly blows up homeroom and yells at them to all mind their own FING business. When the two of them head up to the roof for lunch, Katsuki demands an explanation for yesterday's event. Well? You gonna spill the beans or what, Deku? He chomps down aggressively on his sandwich, his red eyes staring straight at Izuku the whole time. Izuku tells him what he can, carefully omitting the part about knowing All Might's civilian identity. Suzume and I were attacked by that villain on our way to the dojo yesterday, and All Might saved us. He captured it, but we accidentally distracted him and he forgot to take the villain with him when he left. So I told Suzume that I'd bring the villain to the police instead. Somewhere along the way, somebody knocked me over on the street and the villain escaped, which is I guess when it got to you. He winces at the thunderous expression that crosses his friend's face. You mean it's your goddamn fault that I looked like a FING weakling in front of everyone? Katsuki snarls, almost crushing the remainder of his lunch. Hey, I would have delivered that slime to the police if I hadn't been knocked over. Izuku defends himself. Katsuki rolls his eyes at him. Anyways, I heard your explosions in the distance and ran to find you because I figured you were in danger. I thought about jumping in to distract the villain so you could get free, but, well, I think my quirk got stronger without me noticing and somehow I could feel the emotions of the people around me without touching them. Like, I felt this huge blast of guilt hit me before I could try to help you. Katsuki's brow furrows slightly. What the Deku? Yeah, it sounds really weird, but I swear that's what I felt, Izuku insists, waving his hands around for emphasis and nearly dropping his own lunch on the floor. So I traced the source back to this one guy in the crowd, and did my thing, you know. Apparently he was a Yui faculty member. And I guess he had a major connection with All Might? You know the rest. How did you know this guy was part of Yui's staff? Katsuki asks suspiciously. Well, he tracked me down to talk to me yesterday after you went home, Izuku says, then he cringes at how dubious it sounds. The blonde boy narrows his eyes at him. Let me get this right, you went and used your FING quirk on some random but stranger in the crowd who FING blasted you with his guilty emotions, and he miraculously turns out to be someone from Yui, the school that we're both applying to. And somehow, he tracked you down to talk to you alone where no other fuckers could hang around eavesdropping on you. And you didn't even question why the F he was there or feeling guilty in the first place? You didn't find this motherfucker suspicious at all? What the F dash, Deku, he roars, exploding the last remnants of his poor sandwich. I have good instincts, Kaken, Izuku rebuts, unfazed and smiling just as sweetly. Katsuki just slaps a hand over his face and mutters something that contains enough cuss words to make a sailor blush. What a precious little guard dog he has, not that he'd ever say that to Kaken's face. Izuku pats his arm in consolation. Thanks for worrying about me though, he says earnestly. It's cute, Kaken, I don't know why you don't show that side of you more often. He receives a murderous stare as Katsuki lowers his hand. What was that? He hisses through gritted teeth, sparks crackling from his palms. Izuku wisely chooses to finish his lunch in silence. The weekend finds Izuku and Suzume hanging out at the local park with Korogoro, Suzume's 6-month-old Japanese Spitz, running eagerly around their ankles and rolling through the grass. Suzume sits on a wooden bench with the book she brought with her. Izuku pulls out a yellow tennis ball from his pocket and the pup immediately stands alert, his dark eyes trained on the ball. So are you going to apply to Yui, Suzume? The freckled boy asks as he gears up to launch the tennis ball across the park for her dog to fetch. The ball goes flying, and there is a blur of white as the tiny Spitz puppy races after it on stubby legs. Suzume looks up from the book she's perusing with a hum. I don't know, honestly. It's the best school in the country, so I feel like I should since you and Bakugo are going to try, but, she trails off, and Izuku only has to catch a glimpse of the frown on her face to be able to guess at what she was thinking. You don't have to go into heroics, you know, he points out, squatting in the grass to take the ball back from the excited puppy. He throws it again, watching Korogoro yap happily and chase after it again. There's the Gen Ed class, or the support department, or even business and management if you want. Suzume wrinkles her nose at the last suggestion. Oh, hell no. No business, nah, she says. You just don't want to do math, Izuku snickers. Because it SCKS. Numbers are one thing and statistics are another, but all this talk about standard deviations and invisible numbers and some trigonometric magic mumbo-jumbo sheet is another form of torture, I swear, the black-haired girl exclaims, throwing her hands into the air and nearly sending her book flying. Izuku tries to muffle his laugh into a fist and absolutely fails. Come on, you know that's not what the business and management aspect is about, he chortles. You'd be helping pro-heroes start agencies and promote themselves and such. Still. Suzume huffs. Korogoro comes trotting back with the ball in his mouth, dropping the drool-covered object at Izuku's feet. He pants happily up at the two teenagers. You're so lucky, Koro-chan, Suzume MMMMS, sliding off the bench and onto the grass. You don't have to worry about anything. He licks her face, eliciting a giggle. Izuku picks up the ball and tosses it again. So that's a no, he asks. Suzume looks up at the sky thoughtfully. I think I will, she finally answers. Not the heroics department and definitely not the business side, but maybe general education would be a good start. I mean, I'd like to become a teacher, so I would need to go to university and I'm sure Yui would definitely help me get there. What do you think, Izuku? The green-haired boy cracks a big grin at her admission. I think that's great, Suzume. I know you can do it. Korogoro bounds up to them with the ball, which he drops in front of Suzume. He barks twice, his small fluffy tail wagging madly behind him in his excitement. See, even Koro-chan agrees, Izuku says, kneeling down to give the puppy a good scratch behind the ears. Huh, boy? Don't you think Suzume would be a fantastic teacher? The pup barks his agreement and begins to run around in circles. Suzume can't help but smile at her dog's childish antics. Thanks, guys, she says, grabbing the ball and pitching it into the distance herself with her good arm. Korogoro enthusiastically chases it down again. How's your shoulder, by the way? You hit the ground pretty hard a few days ago, Izuku asks, watching as she hides a wince and rubs at her injured shoulder. I'm all right, she replies. Got it checked out by a doctor, she said I just bruised it. No fractures or permanent damage or anything, but I do need to take it easy for a couple of weeks. That's good. Suzume tucks her book back into her bag and they lapse into a companionable silence, waiting for Korogoro to come running back with the tennis ball. Suzume speaks up again, but this time in a more subdued voice that immediately clues Izuku in on the seriousness of the subject. Say? Izuku? Do you think? I mean, you and Bakugo intend to become pro-heroes, but your quirk isn't suited for combat, right? We have Aikido training, but that's probably not enough. So, how are you going to do this? And that's the crux of the issue, isn't it? Izuku's quirk is non-combative. Izuku takes a deep breath, carefully exhaling from his nose. Do you know how I got free from the sludge villain? He inquires, turning towards his friend. Suzume furrows her brows in confusion. I'm not sure. I thought I saw something like needles. I don't really know, I just saw the villain drop you after it screamed, she answers, suppressing a shudder at the memories. Izuku gives her a sympathetic look. Korogoro comes trotting back at that moment, but he seems to sense his owner's distress because he immediately drops the ball and runs up to her barking and yapping loudly. He stands on his hind legs and puts his front paws on her knees, giving her the most soulful look a puppy can muster. Don't be sad. I'm here. He seems to project. He whines pitifully up at her until she caves and starts running her fingers through his thick white fur. Whipped, Izuku mock whispers, gleefully dodging her fist as it swings through the air where his head had been. Shush, you. Korogoro drops back to the ground and begins to prance around her ankles. Anyways, what were you going to say? Right, about how I got free. You know that my quirk deals with people's negative emotions, but I've never been able to use it on myself, right? Izuku begins, bending down to retrieve the forgotten ball from the grass. Right, Suzume nods. Well, in that moment, I found out how to use my own negative emotions. I think they have to be really strong for me to use them though, Izuku continues. He winds his arm back and throws the ball, prompting Korogoro to immediately run after it. Like, when we were captured, I felt this thing inside me. I think it was fear. And right after that, I somehow knew that it was an emotion that I needed to push out of my body. By pushing it out rather than pulling, I was able to injure the villain. I'm not really sure why it was needles, though. Do I need to consciously think about what I'm molding my emotions into? I didn't think about needles, and that's the form my fear took, so maybe it's whatever the subconscious thinks would work best against my current opponent. I could feel the rage in my blood afterwards, so maybe the emotions themselves take whatever shape they want? Or do they play off? Izuku, you're mumbling again, Suzume interjects, sounding fondly exasperated. Sorry, the freckled boy says sheepishly, scratching his cheek. So to sum things up, I can push my own negative emotions out if they're strong enough, and make them into weapons. I think that's how it works anyways. Suzume taps her chin thoughtfully. But what if your emotions aren't strong enough? What then? Obviously someone like Bakugo can just explode or kill whoever's in their way, she starts, waving her good hand around for emphasis. Izuku stares at her like she just grew a second head. Please tell me you didn't pick that up from Kaken, he pleads. It gets the point across, doesn't it? Suzume fires back, shrugging her shoulders a little. Izuku doesn't miss the tiny wince she makes when she moves her injured one, but makes no comment on it. Anyways, you get the gist of it. People like Bakugo with powerful quirks can make their own paths if they get blocked, but plebeians like you and me have to find a way around things. The green-haired boy mouths the word plebeians under his breath, feeling a little incredulous. He's not that poor. Korogoro chooses that moment to make his grand reappearance via tripping over something in the grass and tumbling head over tail into Izuku's leg. Oh, Koro-chan, Suzume sighs, kneeling down to scoop the dizzy puppy into her arms. He lets out a small whine, but is quickly soothed when she strokes the top of his fluffy head. She looks back at Izuku, who has a somewhat pensive expression on his face. Hey now, don't be like that, Izuku. I think you'll be an amazing hero someday, but we both know that close combat isn't your forte. Want some help brainstorming? I think I do quite enough of that by myself, thanks, Izuku answers dryly. Suzume snorts in response. But sure, why not? Want to grab something to eat and talk it over there? My treat again. You're on. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Charles R. Swindle. The rest of spring passes with little fanfare, making way for the sticky, humid heat of summer. Rain comes in torrential waves at the onset of June, drenching the streets of Musutafu. Nary a day goes by without a constant crowd of umbrellas bobbing together on the streets as its citizens continue on with the hustle and bustle of their daily lives. Izuku has taken up an early morning jogging routine, which he ropes Katsuki into doing with him, to the latter's ire. He gets yelled at over waking his friend up at 5 in the goddamn morning for this, but Izuku being Izuku manages to keelhaul the volatile blonde into jogging with him anyway, when it's not raining, otherwise. Katsuki would be in an even fouler mood than usual. It's on one such fine morning that they run into someone completely unexpected. Izuku spots the gaunt figure before Katsuki does, and he brightens up. "Tashinori-san," he calls out to the skeletal man cheerfully, increasing his pace so that he can get to the other man faster. "Good morning." Tashinori looks happy to see him, too. "Good morning, young Midoriya," he greets kindly, slowing to a stop. He looks at Katsuki as he comes up, his usual surly scowl plastered on his face. "And who's your friend?" "This is my childhood friend Kaken," Izuku announces proudly. Katsuki reaches out to slap him upside the head, hissing at him for introducing him with that silly nickname. "The name's Bakugo Katsuki, not Kaken," he grunts to the older man, red eyes narrowed at him suspiciously. "Who are you, old man?" "Kaken, don't be mean to Tashinori-san," Izuku protests. "He's the one I told you about, you know, the UE faculty member who I talked to after you went home that day with the slime villain." This doesn't seem to alleviate Katsuki's suspicions, only raise them, and it's plain to see his metaphorical hackles go up in the way his very hair bristles outwards. A guard dog indeed. "So you're the fucker who's been stalking Deku," he growls, clenching his fists with a murderous expression crossing his face. "The hell's your game, a-hole?" Izuku kicks him in the shin. "I just said don't be mean to Tashinori-san." "Ow, Deku, what the F?" "It's alright, young Midoriya. I understand his concerns," Tashinori says, smiling sheepishly. "I'm glad you have such a good friend watching over you." Katsuki snorts and crosses his arms over his chest. "Flattery gets you nowhere, old man," he snipes, glowering. Izuku has had enough of Katsuki insulting his idol, not that he can tell him that Tashinori-san is actually All Might, their favorite hero, and bodily pushes him away. "Okay, we're not done jogging yet, let's go, chop chop," he says loudly. He looks at Tashinori apologetically. "I'm really sorry for how rude Kaken was to you. He's not normally this acerbic to someone he just met." "The F are you doing, nerd? Isn't that old geezer stalking you?" Katsuki barks, flailing as Izuku forcefully pushes him down the road. "No, he's not." "Ah, wait a moment, boys," Tashinori calls out, a bony hand outstretched towards them. "Meeting you here truly was a coincidence, but now that you are here, I'd like to ask you a favor." That makes them stop arguing with each other and blink at him. "A favor?" Izuku echoes, tilting his head to the side. "Yes." The gaunt man turns and gestures to the area next to them that Izuku hadn't noticed before. He crinkles his nose a little at the sight of the towering stacks of garbage blocking out the horizon, dirty gray sand just barely visible through the cracks. "This is Dagoba Municipal Beach. Doesn't look like much of a beach nowadays, does it?" "That's a FING understatement," Katsuki mutters, his eyes also glued on the garbage dump in disgust. "Do you want us to help you clean it up?" Izuku asks hesitantly. "Precisely, my boy. Think of it as hero training, if you will," Tashinori replies, smiling. "Ha! What part of garbage duty can be considered hero training?" Katsuki predictably explodes. "I'll kill you if this is some kind of joke." Tashinori holds up one hand beseechingly. "Hear me out, young Bakugo. This is an unofficial dumping site, yes, which means there are many items here that are considerably heavier than your usual run-of-the-mill trash. Constantly carrying those items around will strengthen the muscles in your body, especially in your arms and your core. This is a beach, which means that the ground isn't solid, it's sand. Learning how to balance yourself on different terrain will help you with your footwork, as well as testing your balance, your reflexes, and your speed. Cleaning up the beach will simply double as community service, which will raise your standing in the eyes of the citizens because this is not hero work, but civilian work, and you cannot use your quirk to aid you in this endeavor." "Sounds good so far," he explains calmly. Izuku was sold the moment he heard hero training. He stares at Katsuki with big, green, pleading eyes. The blonde is grudgingly impressed by Tashinori's thought-out explanation of how trash pickup duty can actually help them become stronger, and agrees. "Fine, when do we start?" he asks. The skeletal man beams at him. "Thank you, boys. I know you both still have school to worry about, so how about we do this on weekends," he suggests. "This way it will also not interfere with your morning jogs." "Sounds great," Izuku says enthusiastically, pumping one fist into the air. "Let's do it together, Kaken." "Whatever," Katsuki grouses, slouching grumpily with his hands in his pockets. The majority of summer flies by in this manner. When summer break comes around, Izuku and Katsuki are able to dedicate more time to cleaning up the beach and honing their bodies. Tashinori is always there to watch them to make sure they don't overdo it and burn themselves out. Izuku's schedule falls mostly like this: jogging in the early morning, beach duty in late morning and early afternoon, aikido in late afternoon, and then dinner. Rinse and repeat. When Inko finally finds out what the two boys are up to, she sends Izuku along with a picnic basket of goodies that they can all share for lunch. Eat up, Izuku insists when Toshinori tries to pass on his portion of the food. If mom ever sees you, she's going to try to stuff you full. I couldn't possibly, Toshinori falters when Izuku unceremoniously shoves a sandwich into his hands. Well, thank you. Once they've cleared out enough space on the beach to spar, Toshinori sets them to it. No quirks, just plain old hand-to-hand. When Katsuki shoots him a look, the man tells him that in a hero's line of work, there may be times when they are unable to use their quirk and must rely on other means to subdue villains. Katsuki doesn't believe him, but neither does he try to blow Izuku up, so they count that as a win. Eventually Suzume also discovers what they've been doing, and joins them one day just so she can laugh at them whenever one or the other trips over something sticking out of the sand and goes flying into the nearest garbage heap. There are a lot of explosions that day when Katsuki finally blows a gasket after being laughed at one too many times. Frankly, Izuku is surprised that he didn't lose his temper sooner, all things considered. The days are filled with grueling, repetitive work, explosions, and wrestling, as well as boys being boys. If Toshinori looks a little happier, a little less haunted and gaunt and grim each passing day that he spends with them on that dirty beach, well, neither Izuku nor Katsuki call him out on it. The first time Katsuki refers to Toshinori as Toshijiji rather than old geezer, he doesn't cry, but he does look rather misty-eyed when Katsuki flushes red in embarrassment and looks away. Izuku is happy for them. Winter finally rolls around for the young junior high students, bringing storms and flurries of snow with it, causing intense cramming sessions as they get ready to take senior high school entrance exams in February. Sometimes it feels that there's barely a moment to breathe from one day to the next. For Izuku, Suzume, and Katsuki, they spend a good chunk of January holed up in Izuku's room, simultaneously attempting to make sense of their notes and squabbling over the treats that Inko makes for them. Although Suzume attends a different school than the boys, the material covered in all of their classes is mostly the same, with a slightly heavier emphasis on home economics in Suzume's school, so the three of them agreed to just form their own study group. Besides, they're all applying for UE. The more the merrier, Suzume claims, as she snatches the last dumpling from the plate and eats the whole thing in front of Katsuki. Izuku pointedly ignores the ensuing yelling match that happens over his head as he bends over his English textbook. Toshinori cuts down their beach sessions to twice a week, citing that he doesn't want them to freeze in the cold. Besides, they're already almost done, and the last of the garbage isn't going anywhere if they take more days off to study. Katsuki tries to argue that he doesn't get cold because his quirk is literally explosions, but Toshinori shuts him down quickly. Exploding things is all well and good, but unless you've got a thermoregulating quirk, you'll still freeze, the older blonde says. Katsuki can't argue with that, so he just sulks. The day that they haul away the last of the trash, Izuku and Katsuki spend a good 15 minutes just staring out into the horizon on the empty beach. They did it. They did it. The beach still isn't clean by any means, the sand is still gritty and gray, large clumps of seaweed and the occasional branch washing ashore, but they cleared out all the garbage that had accumulated over the years, and the sight of the sunrise breaking over the water's edge is just beautiful. Katsuki flails when Izuku catches him with a hug and spins them around until they are both dizzy and fall on the ground, laughing breathlessly. Even Katsuki can't help the proud smirk that crosses his face when he looks around the beach and doesn't see a trace of human trash anywhere. He'd been opposed to the idea at first, but now, he feels good. The idea that he helped clean up this beach and make it usable again is utterly gratifying, and it's a feeling that he knows he'll be carrying into the UE entrance exams in a month. A long shadow falls over them. Toshinori is there with a pleased grin and words of genuine praise for all their hard work and dedication. Both boys puff up happily. Toshinori decides to treat them to dinner, which prompts Izuku to call his mom and extend an invitation to her to meet the man who had been helping him and Katsuki with their training. Katsuki doesn't invite his parents, but he does let them know that he won't be home for dinner so that they don't start freaking out about where he might be this time. It's been almost a year since the sludge villain incident, and sometimes they still act like he needs to be babied, which is goddamn annoying as F, even if he understands why they do it. He even throws in Izuku's name for good measure. Inko automatically says yes to the dinner invitation. They go out to a very nice, traditional Japanese restaurant. Inko is shocked by how skinny Toshinori is, and both Izuku and Katsuki have to clap their hands over their mouths to keep themselves from guffawing out loud when the slightly pudgy woman immediately starts trying to mother the older blonde into eating more than the tiny serving he'd tried to get by with. Toshinori just about throws both hands into the air in resignation and accepts the extra helping with as much grace as he can manage. Darn this do-gooder Midoriya family and their mother hen tendencies. Toshinori has never been happier since the hero days of his youth before he had woken up in a hospital 5 years ago with a hole in his torso and the realization that his powers are gradually waning. At long last, the day of the UE entrance exams arrives. Izuku and Katsuki mutually decide not to go jogging that morning so that they can focus on conserving as much energy as they can for the exams. Inko sends Izuku off with a smile and a wish for good luck. "Look at how grown up you are already," she sniffles, giving him a parting hug. "Where did my little Izuku go?" The green-haired boy, now 15, laughs and hugs his mother back. "Ah, Mom, don't be sad. I'll be back before you know it," he reassures her. "I'll definitely make you proud, you and Toshinori-san both. Just watch me. I know you will, baby. And I am so proud of you," Inko replies, pulling back to ruffle his unruly hair. "I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful son." Izuku can't quite stop the faint flush of embarrassment that rises in his cheeks as he steps out of her embrace. "I have to go now. See you later, Mom," he squeaks, rushing out the door. Today's the day. He can't wait. To his surprise, Toshinori is waiting in front of the gate, beaming. Katsuki is there, too, his usual grumpy scowl pasted over his face as the gaunt man pats him on the shoulder. "Young Midoriya, young Bakugu, are you ready?" he asks, his eyes brimming with excitement. His wild, flyaway blonde hair and sharp chin, along with his extremely baggy clothes, make him stand out amongst the UE student hopefuls that walk through the gates of the testing site. "I was born ready," Katsuki scoffs. Izuku snaps off a smart salute. "Sir, yes, sir. I'm ready to make you proud." "Excellent," Toshinori says, voice warm. He ruffles both boys' hair, to Izuku's delight and Katsuki's chagrin. "I'll be watching the exams from the faculty room, so go out there and show me what you're made of. Plus ultra." Izuku repeats the phrase back at him, then grabs Katsuki by the hand and drags him off to the indoor testing center where the written exams take place, the blonde boy yelling at him the whole way to let him go. They find seats together in one of the upper rows, where they can easily see the examiner. "Everybody, say hey!" A flamboyant blonde man with his hair slicked up in the back struts on stage, a microphone in his hand, his sunglasses glinting in the bright light of the room. Whispers immediately break out in the audience. There isn't a single soul out of the exam hopefuls who doesn't know of the famous hero who doubles as a radio show host. It's Present Mike. Izuku gushes, practically vibrating in his seat with elation. He starts babbling under his breath on everything he knows about the hero, when Katsuki smacks him over the head. "Shut up, Deku, you're mumbling. And it's attracting attention," the other boy snaps. Izuku smiles sheepishly and rubs the back of his head. Below them, a blue-haired boy closes his mouth and turns back to the front, seeing no reason to call Izuku out when his friend already did so. "I can't hear you. Come on, everybody say HEY. Present Mike repeats jovially, throwing his arms out wide. For a moment, the auditorium is filled with a deafening amount of noise as the examinees chant back, HEY. "All right, much better," Present Mike says, grinning. "Before we get started on the written part of your exams, I'm here to give you some information on your practical." He spins around and clicks the remote in his other hand, which turns on the enormous screen projector on the wall behind him. 3 images take up the screen. Your goal in the practical portion of the exam is to take down as many of these robots as you can. The first is worth 1 point, the second 2 points, and the third 3 points. But be warned. This robot, the images are replaced by a single picture of a gigantic robot that towers over the buildings. The 0-point robot will not net you any points, so steer clear of it. Izuku makes a mental note of that and inwardly frowns. His quirk already isn't suited for combat and now he has to fight robots? Well, good thing he'd done a lot of physical training under Toshinori-san. Maybe he can squeeze by, somehow. Then he has no more time to think about how he's going to fight because the test papers are being handed out, and Izuku refuses to fail on the one thing he knows he can ace for sure. Katsuki is a steady presence by his side, a bright beacon in the sea of UE hopefuls. They'll definitely get in. As he sets his pencil to the paper, Izuku is sure of it. It turns out that for the practical portion of the exam, they'll be in different blocks to make it fairer to students from the same school to have an equal chance of getting in. Katsuki is in Block A, while Izuku is in Block C. Izuku waves goodbye to his childhood friend and heads to his own testing site. Present Mike is apparently starting them off, which amps Izuku up even more. He takes a look around to do a quick assessment of the competition. There's the blue-haired boy with rectangular glasses that he saw before, who is loudly berating a fellow examinee over his lack of decorum towards a girl with brown hair. Izuku raises an eyebrow at that. The boy must be very passionate about his ideals if he isn't ashamed to call people out in public about their faults. A flashy blonde with the longest eyelashes he's ever seen on a guy twirls in place a little ways away, pointedly ignoring all the derogatory remarks thrown his way about how gay he is. Izuku shakes his head at that. Judge people not by their looks, but by their actions, and the ones doing the insulting aren't likely to make it big in the hero industry. A few more glances, there's a guy with an honest-to-God tail, another boy with serious washboard abs and muscles for days, and a girl with vines for hair, which is cool and he really wants to go up and ask her about it, and Izuku turns back to the front when Present Mike clears his throat. Hey, hey, hey! It's a great day, everybody, he yells into the foghorn in his hand. That gets all the examinees' attention quickly. Are you ready? Welcome to the official UE Hero exam. Then he puts the foghorn down and waits. Izuku, with all his practice in analyzing quirks, can read between the lines more easily than the average person. He slinks past several people and runs into the battlefield first, determined to make the most of his time here. Katsuki will undoubtedly outstrip him in terms of points, but that doesn't mean Izuku is going to sit back, twiddle his thumbs, and fall behind. That would just be spitting in the face of all the training he did with Toshinori-san at the beach. There's a wild stampede as people realize what's going on and rush after him. The exam has begun, which means that everyone is now competition. Aim for the top, don't ever stop. Izuku kicks off the ground and uses the momentum to slam into the first robot he sees, testing how hard its metal shell is. To his surprise, it actually gives way rather easily. He looks at it as it falls, and notes that it's a two-pointer. Maybe this won't be so bad after all. He glances around for his next target and springs forward. He's got robots to beat and points to accumulate. He doesn't count the points, just brings down as many of the machines as he can. The officials obviously have a way to keep track of the examinees' totals, so instead of wasting time on that, he'll keep punching and kicking away. There'll be time to think later. Still, it's pretty difficult for him not to stop and stare at everyone else's quirks. The blue-haired boy has engines in his legs, which gives him super speed. Izuku chokes back a laugh as an image of Sonic the Hedgehog pops into his head. The flamboyant blonde is shooting a laser from his belly. The cute brown-haired girl is levitating the robots and dropping them on the ground. The guy with a tail is using it as a bludgeoning weapon to take down the robots in his way. The buff dude gleams with steel skin as he destroys a robot with a tackle, and the lady with vines for hair is using them to twist the machines into unrecognizable piles of scrap metal. Izuku wants to study them so badly that it physically hurts to shut his eyes and walk away so that he can focus on upping his own body count. Hey, if any of them end up in the same class, he'll get his chance to study them then, right? Of course, that's when the 0-point robot decides to show up. Izuku stares up at it blankly, because holy motherfucking shit, the picture from the presentation did not do it justice. This thing is gargantuan, no wonder it's 0 points. How the hell would anybody be able to take that thing down? He almost doesn't register the screams at first, but when someone almost runs into him in their haste to get away from the monstrous robot, he jolts back to his senses. And he has to hold himself back from retching at the thick cloak of fear that envelopes the area. Izuku turns to run away too, but he hasn't taken more than 5 steps forward when he spots the brown-haired girl from earlier, trapped under a large piece of debris. She's in the robot's path. Izuku's pupils shrink and he actually stops breathing at the realization. She's in the robot's path. She can't escape. Izuku wants to be a hero. His quirk isn't suited for combat, there's no way he can take the robot down. And yet, what kind of hero would he be, if he didn't help out a person in need? His mind quickly flashes through several plans. He turns to look, to see if any of those interesting examinees are around. Luckily, they are, although fleeing with the rest. He needs to catch the blue-haired boy first. With his engine legs, he could outrun Izuku in a heartbeat, but he needs that speed to help save the girl. Izuku doesn't know the guy's name, or any of the others' names, so he cups his hands around his mouth and yells as loudly as he can over the din. Hey, glasses. Belly laser. Tail guy. Steel guns. Vines for hair. They all freeze and look at him weirdly. What are you doing? You need to run, too, the glasses boy says, jogging in place and making weird, robotic chopping motions with his hands. I need your help, Izuku says firmly. There's a girl trapped under a rock and she won't be able to escape the robot like we can. What kind of future heroes would we be if we just left someone to die? They wouldn't do that, you know, the buff guy snorts, waving a hand dismissively. The examiners will stop it before anyone gets seriously injured. Everyone else agrees with him. What if it happens in the real world? Izuku retorts, annoyed. You really think we can just stand back and watch someone get hurt because the examiners won't let that happen? Villains won't stop and wait for you in real life. What if you could have helped someone, but didn't because you thought someone else would step in. Grow up. We're trying to get into UE, the best hero school in the country. If you guys really want to be heroes, then don't make excuses. Step up like you mean it. We're trying to be heroes, DMN it. The blue-haired boy stares at him with comically wide eyes, then he bows at a 90-degree angle and shouts, "You're absolutely right." The others exchange uncertain looks, but a determined light shines in their eyes all the same. "You got a plan?" the tail guy asks, looking up at the giant robot that is steadily gaining ground on them. "Because let's be real, none of us can take that thing down." "I have one, but I need everyone's help to make it work. Before we get into it, are any of you two afraid to challenge that thing head-on?" They are brave, but Izuku can still feel the faint wisps of fear and apprehension wafting off of them as the zero-pointer gets closer to them and the trapped girl. They may not be willing to admit it, though. "Why do you ask?" the girl with vine hair speaks up, eyes narrowed at him thoughtfully. Izuku holds up a hand. "It's my quirk. I can remove negative emotions from someone and shape them into objects," he explains. "So if any of you are scared, let me help you, so that you can help me help that girl." The only one who doesn't take his offer is the buff guy with some kind of hardening quirk, but everyone else is willing to give it a try. Thankfully, their fear cores aren't very large. It takes no time at all for Izuku to rip them out and convert them into marbles. The glasses boy's is solid black with a single stripe of blue going around the circumference, the tail guy's is dark purple with swirls of smoky gray, and the vine girl's has a clear surface, but a dark gray interior, thorny red roses blooming up from the bottom. They goggle at him, clearly surprised by how much lighter they feel. But, knowing that that's neither here nor there, they put their new trinkets away and focus on him. "Everyone ready?" Izuku questions. At their nods, he lays out the plan. "So our biggest focus is going to be to stop the robot in its tracks, rather than outright destroy it." What's your name?" "Shiozaki Ibara," the vine girl says delicately. "Right, Shiozaki-san, I'd like you to use your vines to tangle its legs so that it can't move. Don't worry about stopping it completely, we just need it to slow down." "Then?" "My name is Aoyama Yuga, monsieur." The blonde gives him a wink that Izuku doesn't even try to return. "I'm Ida Tenya," the blue-haired boy introduces himself loudly. "Ojiro Mashireo," the tail guy murmurs, his tail swishing behind him. Tetsu, don't you forget it," the buff dude says gruffly, crossing his arms over his chest menacingly. Izuku is not going to comment on his name, even though he really wants to, because come on, what kind of naming sense is that? Then Aoyama-san can use his laser to knock the robot off balance, while Tetsu-san and Ojiro-san can tackle it so that it falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Ida-san and I will go help the girl. Izuku describes his plan the best he can. "By the way, I'm Midoriya Izuku. Maybe none of us can defeat the robot alone, but we can do it together, don't you agree?" "That's super," Tetsu declares, clenching one of his fists tightly. Somewhere over the ocean, a certain perverted cyborg sneezes. "Trace magnifique," Aoyama affirms, twirling on one foot, sparkles flying off of him. "A sound plan," Ida agrees. "Let us put it into action. Don't forget, we're trying to get into UE. And their motto is, go beyond. Plus ULTRAAA. That becomes their rallying cry as they charge. Shiozaki shoots her vines out around the robot's legs, tightening them as much as she can so that the machine can barely move. Aoyama stands at just the right angle to use his belly laser to knock it to the left, the opposite direction of where Ida and Izuku are hurrying towards the trapped examinee. Then Tetsu jumps up with a yell, unleashing a flurry of punches at its chest aimed not to destroy but to push it further backward, while Ojiro lashes out at its trapped legs with his tail. The robot tilts to the side, completely unbalanced, unable to move because of the vines around its legs, and it falls with a deafening boom that echoes through the entire arena. Ida handily kicks the piece of debris off of the girl and Izuku helps her up. She clutches at him like a lifeline, whispering over and over again, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, look at me. You're safe now, okay?" Izuku smiles. "Are you scared?" "Yes," she admits, looking at the fallen robot. I don't know what I would have done if you all hadn't come to help me. Here, take my hand. I'm going to use my quirk on you, okay? It'll take away the fear you're feeling right now." Izuku gently coaxes her. She gives him her hand without hesitation. The girl's fear core is larger than the others, but nowhere near as depressing as the one that had formed inside of Katsuki after the sludge villain incident. There's a pressure bearing down on him, interlocking cubes of iridescent pink being compressed by flat, black discs. Little planets spin around the space, drifting aimlessly. Izuku fashions a mini spaceship out of the core, deceptively light and clear, light pink marbling across its body, accented with a deep purple. "What's your name?" I'm Midoriya Izuku, he says, grinning when he holds up the glass sculpture and she gasps in delight. She takes the sculpture and hugs it to her chest, replying, Uraraka Ochako. Thank you so much, Midoriya-kun. I'll treasure this forever. Everyone else comes back, all of them looking proud. We did it. Ojiro announces, high-fiving Tetsu. That was an awesome combo you did there. You weren't too bad yourself. Tetsu laughs. They pause when they hear the sound of the zero-pointer struggling to get back up from where it had fallen. Why don't we get out of here and talk later? Izuku hastily proposes. I don't want to find out if that thing can get back to its feet. Everyone unanimously agrees. In the faculty room where heroes are watching the exam, all eyes are on the group in Block C that had worked together to take down a zero-pointer under the command of a certain green-haired, green-eyed boy. Those examinees will be getting rescue points for sure, especially for a successful operation that ended in no one getting hurt. Is he the one, All Might? A white creature asks from the chair that he reclines in comfortably while he watches. Toshinori's eyes are glued to the screen, a proud smile on his skeletal face, and replies, yes. He is. The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. Vidal Sassoon. Have the exam results been finalized? Yes, Nezukocho. They are right here. The intelligent animal hums in satisfaction as he looks over the sheets of paper placed on his desk. Very good. Have All Might prepare a welcome speech for each student who made it into our heroics department this year, he declares. The newest batch of incoming students look to be quite an interesting and promising bunch, especially the green-haired kid who Toshinori has his eye on. Coincidentally, he is also the highest-ranked student to pass the exam. Not to mention, there are the 4 students who have been admitted through recommendation. 2 will be placed in Class 1A, the other 2 in Class 1B for the coming school year. Yes, truly an auspicious sign of good things to come. As for 1A's homeroom teacher, well, Nezu smiles as he settles back into his chair. He has the utmost faith that the new Class 1A will handily win over the underground hero. Perhaps Aizawa will even find himself intrigued by some of them. It will not go down the same way as this year's debacle where he expelled an entire class of students for not taking heroics seriously. Nezu had to field a lot of complaints that day, but Aizawa is not a man to make such decisions lightly, and he did technically re-enroll them afterwards. Nezu would not have hired him if he didn't think the hero could do the job. The mouse bear looks over the results again, his beady eyes settling on the top 10. Rank. Name. Villain points. Rescue points. First. Midoriya Izuku. 33. 75. Second. Shiozaki Ibara. 36. 67. Third. Ida Tenya. 52. 49. Fourth. Tetsu. 49. 45. Fifth. Bakugo Katsuki. 77. 5. Sixth. Ojiro Mashireo. 38. 42. Seventh. Kirishima Ijiru. 39. 35. Eighth. Kendo Itsuka. 25. 40. Ninth. Tokoyami Fumikage. 47. 10. 10th. Aoyama Yuga. 21. 35. Izuku is nervous. His palms are sweating as he looks down at the innocuous white envelope sitting on his desk. This is it, the moment of truth. Here are his UE entrance exam results. While he's sure that he did decently during the practical, whether it was enough to impress the UE faculty is another story. He sits there, hands clenched. Well, the envelope won't open itself. He has to take the leap. He can feel his mother hovering anxiously in the doorway, also curious about his results. Izuku gingerly takes it into his hands and tears the top off with a letter opener. Instead of a piece of paper, a holographic device falls out, clattering onto his desk. It lights up, projecting a very familiar image into the air. Am I on yet? How do I look? Oh, it's already recording? You should have told me. All Might seems to be speaking to someone off-screen while he poses with his hands on his hips, his chest puffed out. He clears his throat loudly. Ahem. Well, first of all, let me say this: congratulations, young Midoriya Izuku. You have been officially accepted into the UE Department of Heroics for the upcoming school year as part of the class of 20XX. Both Inko and Izuku scream in unison, mother and son colliding in an ecstatic hug, happy tears all around. All Might continues, I want you to know that I am extremely proud of you, young Midoriya. Now, before I tell you your results, there is some information I must impart to you. The goal of the practical was to evaluate your potential in dealing with villains, yes, but there was a secondary grading rubric that was kept a secret from the examinees. That point system was for rescue points. Even if you did not get a lot of villain points, you could still pass the exam if you earned enough rescue points. And frankly, young Midoriya, that is part of why I am so proud of you right now. You ranked first in the practical exam, with 33 villain points and 75 rescue points, for a whopping total of 108 points. Izuku is not crying right now. He is definitely not crying right now. There's something in his eyes, that's all. Inko has no such qualms about holding back as she grabs her son and swings him around, laughing. Izuku, my baby, I am so happy for you. The green-haired boy has no words to say for once, he's just completely overwhelmed with joy. All Might goes a little more into the specifics of his admittance, what to expect at UE, how to get his uniform and his student ID and class schedule and such. Izuku is floating so high on cloud 9 that he almost doesn't hear him. Once again, congratulations on passing the exam, young Midoriya. I will see you at UE in 2 months. Plus Ultra. The hologram flickers and disappears. Inko bustles downstairs, mentioning that she'll be making katsudon tonight to celebrate. Izuku immediately phones Katsuki and blurts out the good news, although half of it is unintelligible screaming. His best friend sits through the stream of babble for about 5 seconds before roaring, "Get to the FING point." "Oh right. Kaken, I did it. I got into UE. And All Might said I ranked number 1 on the practical exam." Izuku exclaims excitedly. "Congrats, nerd," Katsuki snorts over the phone. "Haven't gotten mine yet, but if you got in, there's no way I didn't. How the hell did you rank first?" He said they had a second scoring rubric that the examinees were graded on and that's how I got most of my points, Izuku replies. "But now that I think about it, it makes so much sense. Heroes don't just take down villains, they help civilians too. Of course they'd award points for rescue opportunities. I told you how the 0-pointer was coming for this one girl Uraraka, right? Well, Deku, you've told me this story 4 times already, I get it. Still, rescues are for wimps. Taking down villains is the real deal," Katsuki scoffs. "I know you could have taken that 0-pointer easily," the green-haired boy says assuredly. "It was huge, but I doubt it would have taken much for them to explode. Me, on the other hand, I'm not as strong as you, so I rounded up some guys to help me out." "You mean you took out their negative emotions and made them your beaches?" "Kaken." Izuku gasps, scandalized. A bark of laughter comes through the speaker. Izuku pouts even though Katsuki can't see him. "That's mean, Kaken." There's a loud woman's voice in the background, Katsuki replying back with something equally snide, before he says, "The hag just told me my letter arrived." There's a noise like the sound of a chair scraping back. Open it, Izuku chants giddily. "And put me on speaker so I can hear it too." "Don't order me around," the other boy grumbles, even as he obliges. Izuku listens intently as his friend grabs the letter and tears it open. A few seconds later, All Might's voice booms out heartily. "Congratulations, young Bakugo Katsuki. I am very proud to announce that you have been accepted into the UA Department of Heroics for the upcoming school year as part of the class of 20XX. Izuku screams into the phone at the same time that Mitsuki yells in happiness, and there's a brief screech as the explosive mother and son duo do their own version of a hug, a grapple with a headlock followed by much shouting. "Before I give you your results, there is some information I must impart to you. The goal of the practical was to evaluate your potential in dealing with villains, yes, but there was a secondary grading rubric that was kept a secret from the examinees. That point system was for rescue points. Even if you did not get a lot of villain points, you could still pass the exam if you earned enough rescue points. Young Bakugo, you did not get many rescue points, only 5, but I am pleased to say that out of all the examinees, you scored the highest number of villain points, an amazing 77. Which puts your total at 82, overall 5th ranked in the exam." As expected, Katsuki is not happy about his exam ranking, but unfortunately hollering at a holographic recording won't do much good. It wars with his pride over getting the most villain points. Izuku listens as All Might goes over the same basic information as he had told him, the murmur of Mitsuki's voice in the background as she makes plans for getting his school supplies, before All Might's voice disappears with the end of the welcome speech. "Deku, tell me again how the hell you ranked first," Katsuki hisses through the phone. Izuku has known him for so long that he can easily tell that it is taking all of his control not to blow his phone up. As it is, there's a slight creak of plastic from how hard his fingers are gripping the mobile device. "You heard All Might, there was a secret system of rescue points. I only got 33 villain points, but the thing I pulled off in my exam with the help of my fellow examinees gave me 75 rescue points. I bet they got awarded a lot of rescue points too, which is probably why you placed 5th. But you're amazing, Kaken. 77 villain points. More than double the amount that I got." Izuku chatters away, spinning in his desk chair. His explanation seems to slightly mollify the other boy. Bet he's rethinking his stance on rescues are for wimps. Fing whatever. This won't stop me from being number one at Yui, Katsuki mutters. Of course, Kaken. Let's do our best. Izuku agrees serenely. I'm gonna call Suzume now, so talk to you later. Bye, nerd. Katsuki hangs up. Izuku dials Suzume, who picks up in 2 rings. What's up, Izuku? Guess what, he sings. She instantly becomes excited, gasping in delight. Did you get into Yui? He laughs. How did you know? You can't fool me, young man. What else would you be so happy about a week after you took the heroics exam? Touché. Well, there's more good news. Would you believe me if I said that I ranked first in the exam? Suzume gasps again. You did? That's awesome. You're so cool, Izuku. I bet you told Bakugo already, right? Wish I could have been there to see the look on his face. I didn't see it either, because I called him about it too, Izuku admits, turning back around to slip the holographic device back into its envelope for safekeeping. If you want to know how he did though, you'll have to ask him yourself. The girl snorts. No need, knowing that you beat him in the exam is enough. That's because they had a second grading rubric that nobody knew about, rescue points. I pulled off a team-oriented rescue operation at the end of the exam with a bunch of people I didn't know and it was a success, so they gave me a lot of rescue points. Kaken definitely beat me in villain points, Izuku says. He tucks the envelope away into his desk drawer, smiling to himself. Suzume cackles gleefully over the phone. Rescue points? Oh man. That's great, no wonder you beat that chump. Can you imagine him rescuing anybody on purpose? Speaking the thought out loud seems to crack her up even more, and Izuku can already envision her rolling around on the floor in her room laughing in the middle of doing basic exercises. His friends are so dumb, yet so great at the same time. He doesn't understand the source of their animosity towards each other, really. What about you, Suzume? Did you get an acceptance letter from Yui yet? He asks. Not yet. I'm still waiting, she coughs, breathing unsteadily after her latest laugh fest. I'm sure you got in, he assures her. A series of short, sharp barks comes through the speaker. See, Koro-chan agrees, too. Why do I feel like Koro-chan likes you more than me? Suzume complains half-heartedly, without any heat. Izuku snickers into an open hand. Anyways, I'm really happy for you, Izuku. You're going to be an amazing hero, I just know it. Izuku's smile goes soft and grateful. Thank you for believing in me. You're going to be a fantastic teacher, Suzume. On the morning of his and Katsuki's first day at Yui, Izuku goes to the Dagoba beach. No one had tried to dump anything there since they'd cleaned the beach up, which is great. He treads on the sand in his brand new sneakers, waiting for the sunrise. Quiet footsteps sound out not 2 minutes later, and Katsuki appears. He'd apparently had the same idea. The blonde comes to a stop beside him, watching the gradually lightening skyline in the distance. Side by side, they don't speak, only gaze out where the sun slowly drifts into view above the vast blue ocean. This is it, Kaken, Izuku breaks the silence, turning to his best friend. The day that we've both been waiting for so long is finally here. We weren't waiting for it for like a couple of losers, we earned that sheet, Katsuki retorts, stuffing his hands in his pockets. We're not gonna stop there either. I swear, I'm going to be number one. We'll be number one, you mean, Izuku says, grinning. I can't wait to meet all our classmates. I wonder if I'll see anybody from the exams in our class. So you can creep them out with your muttering habit? Kaken. Izuku whines, shoving at Katsuki's shoulder playfully. The blonde pushes back, and they spend a couple minutes slapping their hands back and forth in a mock fight. It's Yui, so there's probably people who got in through recommendation too, Katsuki remarks once they've both stopped. We're going to show those fuckers that we aren't going to be messed with. Be nice, Kaken, Izuku chastises, fondly exasperated. Getting in through recommendation must mean they've got amazing quirks. Or connections, Katsuki sneers. Amazing quirks, the green-haired boy insists stubbornly. Before they can get into an argument over what it means to be a recommendation student at Yui, a throat clears loudly behind them, instantly grabbing their attention. Toshinori is standing at the entrance of the beach, smiling proudly. Toshinori-san. Izuku calls out, delighted. Toshijiji, Katsuki greets with a slightly less angry than usual scowl. I thought I might find the two of you here, he says, stepping forward. Once again, congratulations on getting into Yui. Izuku beams like the ray of sunshine he is. Thank you. I look forward to it, sir. Katsuki crosses his arms belligerently. The exam rankings were bullshit. Don't think I'm going to be content with 5th place, he grumbles, tilting his chin up. Oh yes, I was certainly impressed with your performance, young Bakugu. 77 villain points. That's amazing, Toshinori laughs, ruffling the younger blonde's hair. Katsuki looks torn between grinning in pride or flushing in embarrassment over being treated like a kid by someone who isn't even his parent. He ends up settling on a weird, half-angry mix of both that has Izuku chortling at how red his ears are. Katsuki chases Izuku across the sand, yelling at him to shut up. Toshinori watches over them fondly. Ah, the joys of youth. Katsuki finally tackles Izuku to the ground, the two boys rolling around kicking up a spray of sand as they squabble like little kids. Toshinori claps his hands and steps in to break them apart. Now, young Midoriya, young Bakugu, you two should go home and get ready for school, he chides lightly. Wouldn't want to be late for your first day, would you? They leap up frantically at his words. Race you to the train station, Kaken. Izuku challenges, sprinting towards the entrance to the beach. His friend snarls furiously at his back and runs after him, hollering something about not losing to him today. They both end up stumbling through their classroom doorway laughing and out of breath, Izuku banging his hip on the door frame while Katsuki almost trips over his foot and has to do a weird long step to keep himself from face-planting into the nearest desk. I win. Izuku pants, bright-eyed and grinning as their new classmates who are already in the room look at them with startled eyes. Like hell you did. I got here a split second before you. Katsuki roars. You tripped over my foot, which you could only do if you were behind me, Izuku replies, smiling innocently. Lies. They are cut off from further arguing when two people walk up and call Izuku's name. He turns and brightens when he sees two of the people he had taken the exam with. Hey, we're in the same class. Ida-kun and Uraraka-san, right? He asks. Good to see you, Midoriya-kun. Uraraka beams, coming to a stop in front of him. She looks uncertainly at his angry friend. Who's, your friend? This is Kacha. Katsuki slaps him over the head, snarling, I've told you not to introduce me with that nickname, stupid. Sorry, Kaken. Izuku smiles beatifically, not looking sorry at all. He just brushes back the curls that had fallen in his face and continues, this is my childhood friend, Bakugu Katsuki. Please feel free to call him Kaken. You fucker. Ida interjects loudly, that's no way to treat a friend, Bakugu. Refrain from that disrespectful behavior immediately. He follows this with a set of chopping motions in Katsuki's direction. The scowling blonde rounds on him with a sneer, what's it to you, shitty glasses? Ida rears back, offended. Wah! How rude! He turns to Izuku with an expression just shy of apoplectic. How are you friends with this heathen? I'll show you who's a heathen. Katsuki hollers, poised to leap at the other boy and pummel him into the floor. He's thwarted when Izuku throws his arm out and blocks him, giving him a reproachful look. That's not nice, Kaken, he says. Katsuki grudgingly backs off, to both Ida's and Uraraka's surprise. Izuku lets down his arm and sighs, and Toshinori-san already told you not to pick any fights, too. That old fart can mind his own business, the blonde grumbles, stalking over to a desk and throwing himself into the seat. Ida starts lecturing him on proper student behavior when Katsuki boldly puts his feet up on the desk he claimed, to the explosive boy's irritation. Is Bakugu-kun always like that? Uraraka whispers to Izuku. He seems so intense. The green-haired boy laughs good-naturedly, that's Kaken for you. After a few minutes, more people join the class. He observes his new classmates with blatant interest, having already taken out of his latest hero analysis notebook. Most of his classmates are people who he didn't see in the exam, but he's happy to note that aside from Uraraka and Ida, Ojiro and Aoyama are also in his class. Izuku waves at Ojiro when he walks in, who returns the gesture with a smile. Everyone else is new and interesting, and gosh, Izuku can't wait to learn all about their quirks. Especially that boy with two-toned hair split evenly down the middle, who takes the farthest seat in the back in the third row. His aloof demeanor, the way he holds himself apart from the others, that awful burn scar around his left eye, the waves of Hatsudangrelonelli hate that roll off of him, they all scream plain as day, to Izuku I have a tragic backstory. Yeah, Izuku's definitely going to help him out come hell or high water. Is that a yellow caterpillar? Izuku nearly leaps out of his skin when the yellow caterpillar behind the desk sits up. Oh, it's just someone in a sleeping bag. Wait, who comes in like that? And then a tired, disheveled man with incredibly bloodshot eyes climbs out of the sleeping bag, instantly attracting attention from all the students in the classroom. He scratches at the uneven stubble around his jaw and deadpans. I'm Aizawa Shoyuta, your homeroom teacher. My first impression of you all is, not impressed. Those of you who are just here to make friends can go home. When nobody moves, he sighs and gestures to the wall, where a bunch of blue uniforms pop out. Fine, get dressed and meet me in the field. We'll be doing a quirk apprehension test. Wait, sensei. Aren't we supposed to be doing orientation and meeting with the advisors? Ida is quick to ask the first question of the day. You're in the Department of Heroics, there's no need for that, Izawa says dismissively. Now move it, or I'll think that you all aren't taking this seriously. Everyone scrambles to grab a uniform and get changed. Minutes later, they gather on the field. We'll be doing a series of fitness tests to gauge your potential as hero students, the dark-haired man announces. He tosses Katsuki a softball. You, Bakugu, throw the ball as hard as you can. Use your quirk and don't hold back, he orders. Izuku sees Katsuki's face twist up in a scowl because he hates being told what to do, but the blonde winds his arm back anyway, because this will be the first time that they can actually use their quirks in a school-related activity. Die, he screams, using explosive force to pitch the ball so far that it flies out of sight. Izawa holds up a recording device in his hand and nonchalantly announces, 705.2 meters. An excellent record. Katsuki grins, sharp and fierce and proud. Great job, Kaken. Izuku says, beaming. Some of their new classmates break out into a chorus of odd comments overlapping each other at the casual display of power. Wow, that was amazing. This'll be so much fun. Uraraka giggles, clapping her hands together. That's when they all shiver at the glare their new homeroom teacher levels at them. Fun? You think that heroics is going to be fun, do you? You aren't taking this seriously enough, it seems, so I'm raising the bar. Whoever comes in last place in these tests will be considered as having zero potential and will be expelled, Izawa growls. Izuku gapes at him, just as thrown by the statement as everyone else. He can do that? He lightly chews on his bottom lip, thinking about what he can do to make sure he doesn't end up last. Because his quirk isn't suited for combat, he can't do much in physical tests either, but he does have a strengthened body thanks to Toshinori's training. And he does practice Aikido, just in case Izawa has them spar with each other. But, it still is rather harsh that a teacher would implement a rule like that just because a student mentioned that the hero course was going to be fun. Who is this man? What kind of hero is he, for that matter, since Izuku's? Never seen him before. Midoriya, you're next, Izawa calls, lobbing another softball at him. As Izuku catches the ball, he becomes aware of the sudden whispering between his new classmates. Midoriya? Isn't that the guy who came first in the entrance exam? No way. That's him? He doesn't look that strong, though. But he's friends with that Bakuga dude, right? Katsuki slams his foot into the ground and whirls on the startled students, his teeth bared and red eyes blazing. Shut the F up, he barks, sparks popping over his palms. At least Deku ranked at the top of the exams, which is more than I can say for the rest of you extras. Language, Bakugu, Izawa reprimands sharply. Izuku lets loose a little laugh to break the tension. It's okay, Kaken. Thanks for sticking up for me again, he chirps, stretching his arm back. He throws the ball as hard as he can. 58.7 meters. Not bad, their homeroom teacher says. Uraraka, you're next. In the end, the one who comes up last is a tiny little guy named Mineta, who trembles fearfully as Izawa sweeps them with a hard gaze. He stares right at the small boy and, with absolutely no signs of remorse, summarily states, Mineta came last in the test, therefore he will be expelled. Izuku feels bad for the smaller student when he starts openly bawling, so without thinking, he raises his hand and interjects, "Excuse me, Izawa-sensei, may I have a word with Mineta-kun before you make the final decision?" He ignores Katsuki's hiss of, "The hell are you doing, Deku?" and looks at his new homeroom teacher squarely in the eyes. Izawa doesn't look happy to be interrupted, but he waves his hand and gruffly tells him that he's got 5 minutes. Izuku nods and takes Mineta to the side, away from the group. "Mineta-kun, can I ask you a question?" Izuku patiently waits for the waterworks to slow down so the other boy can answer him between hiccups and sniffles. "Why do you want to be a hero?" Because I want to be cool." Mineta replies immediately. "The cool guys get all the girls, so I want to be cool, too." Izuku's sweat drops at the unexpected answer. "Is that the only reason?" "Yes. I want to be a hero to become popular, and then all the ladies will love me." Mineta says fervently, an unholy gleam of perversion shining in his eyes that makes even Izuku lean back a bit in discomfort. "They'll all refer to me as Grape-sama, and want to play with my—" "Okay, stop right there," Izuku interferes hastily, not wanting to hear what kind of fantasies the small boy has cooked up over the years. He continues, "Mineta-kun, you want to be a hero, right? Please give me your hand." Mineta squints at him suspiciously. "Why? Are you planning to do something to me?" "Well, yes, but it's to help you if you really want to be a hero. My quirk is called emotion metamorphosis. I can relieve someone of their negative emotions and turn them into glass trinkets. If I'll be honest, I don't think wanting to be a hero just to be cool is good enough for the hero course, and your fascination with women is more likely to alienate you than win you points with the crowd. Girls aren't objects or prizes to be won, you know. They're people too, and it's important to treat them with respect, Izuku explains to the wide-eyed boy. So if you truly want to be a hero, then let me help you. Mineta sniffles again, but as he extends his hand out, he says thickly, "You're a good guy, Midoriya, helping someone like me. What are heroes for?" Izuku responds warmly, taking the tiny boy's hand and activating his quirk, letting the darkness of the emotionscape wash over him. Lust is considered one of the 7 deadly sins in Western culture, and it's plain to see with the grotesque black heart suspended in midair, translucent pink feminine shapes undulating in the air beside it, occasional dark pink and purple hearts winking in and out of existence all across the space. The black heart pulses softly, releasing a magenta-colored slime that oozes down its body and disappears into the floor. Izuku curls his fingers and pulls it out without hesitation. He shapes it into a delicate flower pin in the shape of a hyacinth, clear except for the spiral of violet lines twining up the length of the flower. He presses the pin into the palm of Mineta's hand. The smaller boy looks like his entire world has been suddenly flipped on its axis and he just stares at Izuku, at a complete loss for words. "Feeling okay, Mineta-kun? Then let me ask you again, why do you want to be a hero?" Izuku repeats, smiling. This time Mineta hesitates to answer, opening and closing his mouth several times without replying. The green-haired student waits, even as Aizawa gives him a warning signal that he's only got a minute left. When the small boy finally does talk, he's surprisingly solemn when he tells Izuku, "I want to be acknowledged for helping people." Still not the best reason for becoming a hero, but it's better than before. Hopefully with his perversion toned down, Mineta will now actually work towards bettering himself as a proper hero rather than one desperately seeking popularity with the ladies. Izuku nods and leads him back over to the group to await Aizawa's verdict. The scruffy man surveys both of them critically, looking between Izuku's smile and Mineta's thoughtful expression as he turns the glass pin over and over in his hands. "Mineta," he calls, grabbing the purple boy's attention. "Because Midoriya went out of his way to help you, I will give you another chance. Don't disappoint me, or you're out." Mineta bows deeply, "Thank you for the opportunity, Aizawa-sensei. I won't let you down." Izuku rejoins Katsuki and Uraraka in the crowd, the former muttering something about his bleeding heart while the latter beams and whispers to him, "You're already a hero in my books, Midoriya-kun." Izuku laughs quietly at that and tells her thank you. Class wraps up for the day, and the students are sent on their way with their homeroom teacher drawling, "Don't be late tomorrow or I'll make you regret it." As the new Class 1A leaves the field, chattering to each other about the test and everyone's different quirks, Aizawa walks in the opposite direction to where a certain hero is standing hidden behind a wall. He stops and fixes All Might with a tired stare. "Did you see what you came here to see?" he asks. All Might's teeth glint in the sunlight as he steps out from the shadows. "I did. What do you think of young Midoriya, Eraserhead?" "He's got potential," Aizawa shrugs, looking in the direction of the students. "Not as a frontline hero, though." "Maybe not, but does he meet your standard of approval?" Aizawa closes his eyes, resisting the urge to rub them. "Kid's got ball, that's for sure," he agrees, opening them again. "We'll see what he makes of himself here. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got things to do." He walks away, drafting new lesson plans in his head. Midoriya Izuku, the kid who ranked first in the entrance exam by earning the highest number of rescue points, who took another classmate just before he could be expelled and improved his attitude in just 5 minutes, because of the nature of his quirk, emotion metamorphosis. That'll be one he'll be keeping his eye on for the foreseeable future. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Winston Churchill. The next day, Class 1, as Foundational Heroics class begins with a bang. Literally. As in All Might throws the door open with a joyous cry of, "I'm coming through the door like a normal person." The majority of the hero class students freak out, of course. The number one hero, teaching their class? It's like a dream come true. Izuku and Katsuki share a look when they catch the hero quickly stuffing a Teaching for Dummies book under the desk. All Might clears his throat and the room goes silent. Ahem. As some of you may be aware, I took up a teaching post here at UE starting this year. I will be the one overseeing your heroics class, he announces. The class explodes into hushed, excited whispers again. We will be doing combat training today, so get dressed and meet me at ground beta. He turns to the wall and presses a remote. And what comes out of the wall is... Izuku practically leaps out of his seat, enthusiastically yelling, "Are those our hero costumes?" The muscular hero gives an exaggerated thumbs up and a million-watt smile and says, "That's right." There is a split second of silence, then half the class also shoot up out of their chairs, their voices overlapping in a frenzied cacophony of excited shouts. All Might even looks taken aback by the sudden commotion. He tries to cover up his surprise with a loud cough. "It's good that you're displaying so much energy this early in the morning, my young students. As I said earlier, get changed and meet me at ground beta for today's class." He turns and exits, taking his book with him. As soon as the door slides shut, Class 1A races over to the lockers, chattering to each other as they pull the costumes out. Izuku smiles as he goes to the one labeled with his name, thinking back on the various hero costume designs he came up with over the years. With his quirk, it is true that combat is not his specialty, like it is for Katsuki. Emotion metamorphosis is a 5-point contact type quirk, which requires him to touch someone with all 5 fingers in order for it to take effect. It works best if he can contact bare skin, but as long as he has 5 points of contact, it will work no matter what, unless you're Eraserhead and can erase it before he can use it. With that in mind though, it has led him to the question of, what kind of hero does he want to become? How should he design his costume based off of that idea? Of course, he has Aikido techniques under his belt, but as Aizawa has said, no good hero is a one-trick pony. For him to be effective against villains, he needs to be in close contact so he can pull out their negative emotions. But since he can only affect one person at a time, his biggest weakness is fighting against multiple villains at once. Keeping that in mind, his performance in the entrance exam, as well as what his quirk is capable of, it makes the most sense for him to be. Stop standing there muttering to yourself and change into your goddamn costume. Katsuki smacks him on the back, jolting him from his thoughts. Ahaha, sorry, Kaken, Izuku chirps, draping his costume over his arm and following his friend to the boys' changing room. Afterwards, they assemble at ground beta, where All Might is waiting. Whoa! Uraraka-san, your costume looks so cool. Yours too, Idakuin. You modeled it after Ingenium, right? Kaken, I didn't realize you would add actual grenade gauntlets to your design. Izuku gushes over his friend's costume designs, from Uraraka's puffy spacesuit to Ida's shiny armor to Katsuki's grenade gauntlets. You think so? It's different than I was expecting, Uraraka says nervously, patting at the material of her first hero costume. Ida strikes a pose, chopping the air in front of him with a proud, correct. He is my older brother, after all. Katsuki grins fiercely, holding one up. They're perfect. I can't wait to test them out. Izuku nods vigorously, fists clenched. His own costume isn't anything flashy compared to everyone else's. He's wearing a skin-tight green jumpsuit with overlapping layers of thin metal plates over his arms and his thighs. It zips up in the front, a cream-colored layer of fabric sewn over his chest and stomach, hiding flexible mesh armor that will protect his most vulnerable internal organs from the majority of bladed weapons. His eyes are covered with a special orange visor that relays statistical information to him in real time, including thermal imaging, zoom, trajectory mapping, auto-analysis, and other functions. He had a lot of ideas on how to improve his chances in battle, Suhim, which is connected to a wireless communication device attached to his left ear. His hands are covered in fingerless padded white gloves with a metal plate over the back, a single circle engraved on each. A set of thick, but lightweight red and black padded boots with all-terrain soles complete the ensemble. All Might clears his throat to get their attention. Ahem. Today we will be doing a special combat simulation. I will be splitting you into teams of 2 and you will fight against another team. One team will be the heroes, the other team will be the villains. The situation is this: the villains have a bomb and are hiding inside a building. The hero's goal will be to either capture both villains or to dismantle the bomb within the time limit. You only need to touch the bomb to deactivate it in this scenario. The villain's goal will be to either defeat the heroes or protect the bomb till the end of the time limit. Each team will get capture tape. If you are captured, you're out. Everyone with me so far? Sounds simple enough, one of the boys says, lacing his fingers behind his head. Izuku doesn't quite remember his name, Kaminari, but the black lightning bolt dyed into his air gives him a distinctive look. Great. The teams are randomly decided, to test how well you can work with someone you may not necessarily be familiar with. So, are you ready, you fledglings? Yes, sir, the class chants at him, straightening up. All Might flashes them another giant grin. Excellent, that's what I like to hear. Then without further ado, here are the teams. Team A, Ojiro Mashareo and Shiro Hanta. Team B, Ida Tenya and Aoyama Yuga. Team C, Kaminari Denki and Tokoyami Fumikage. Team D, Ashido Mina and Kirishima Ijiru. Team E, Yayorozu Momo and Hagakure Turu. Team F, Jiru Kyuka and Uraraka Ochako. Team G, Shuji Mizo and Kota Koji. Team H, Midoriya Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki. Team I, Todoroki Shudo and Azui Tsuyu. Team J, Sato Rikadu and Mineta Minoru. Kaken, we're on the same team. Izuku says happily. I wonder if that was a coincidence? Doesn't matter, we'll win no matter what, Katsuki scoffs dismissively, but the battle-hungry expression on his face shows that he's itching for a good fight. And for our first match, it will be? Team H versus Team I. Team H will be the heroes and Team I will be the villains. The rest of you please head to the observation room, we will be watching the matches. Please carefully observe how your classmates deal with their respective situations. Heroes, you will get 5 minutes to come up with a plan. Villains, you will have 5 minutes to secure the bomb. Ready? Start. Team H versus Team I. Heroes, Midoriya Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki. Villains, Todoroki Shudo and Azui Tsuyu. Knowing you, you'd rather charge in and blast them to Kingdom Come, but don't forget that we'll be fighting inside a building, Kaken. Please don't bring the roof down on my head. Ha! You think I'd be that careless? Katsuki scowls. Izuku smiles and doesn't dignify him with a response to that. Well, since we don't know their quirks, I'd say we should proceed with caution. Not that you'd listen to me, right? DMN straight. So I was thinking that you could go ahead and do what you do best, and I'll do my own scouting behind you. I'm better off going the capture route anyway. If we split up, we can cover more ground. If I had to guess, putting the bomb on the topmost floor makes the most sense since in a real-life situation, climbing up multiple floors not only drains your stamina, but it's more difficult for the hero to escape if something goes wrong. Not to mention, placing it on the 5th floor would make it more defensible. And if the villain had Deku, I get it. Shut up already. Sorry, Kaken. All Might's voice comes from the speaker connected to the observation room. 5 minutes are up. Heroes, you may now enter the building. The two boys waste no time stepping in. 1. 2. THR. Izuku doesn't have time to react as a literal sheet of ice blasts through the narrow corridors and freezes him solid. Katsuki blows the ice away from him with a round of intense explosions, keeping himself airborne to avoid having his feet frozen to the floor. Ice continues to rage through the hall, jagged, spiky, and ruthless. It doesn't stop until it shatters every window and even punches the entrance door clean off its hinges. Then, it solidifies. It would be beautiful in any other setting. As it is, Izuku cannot feel his extremities and that is not a good sign. KK Kaken, I'm really CC cold, Izuku says, teeth chattering. Your fault you got caught, Katsuki snorts, but he still uses small explosions to chip away the weaker parts of the ice around the green-haired boy. Izuku manages to wiggle free. He massages the stiffest parts of his body to get the blood circulating again. Thanks. That was probably from Todoroki-kun. Azui-san likely wouldn't be near him because she's got some sort of amphibian quirk and her body probably shuts down if it's too cold. Izuku rubs his arms, trying to warm himself back up. Why you go on ahead, Kaken? You should deal W with Todoroki-kun as soon as possible. Katsuki smirks, jetting down the hallway with a single blast. You don't need to tell me twice. Don't get caught again, nerd. He vanishes from sight a moment later, but the loud, and very inconspicuous, popping sounds of his explosions continue to ring out long after he's gone. Good, at least that means that the other team's attention will definitely be on him. Izuku would rather take a different route, but well, the ice is kind of blocking every pathway possible. He can only move where Katsuki's explosions have shattered the ice. Not ideal, but then again, is any hero versus villain situation ever ideal? Once Izuku reaches the 2nd floor, he finds a shadowy corner to hide and taps his visor to turn on thermal imaging. His visor doesn't have X-ray vision, unfortunately. Maybe he should look into adding that function. He glances around, but only muted hues greet him. There's no one here. He proceeds with caution, carefully picking his way around the ice. The building shakes a bit. Unintelligible shouting comes from far away. Izuku touches the communication device in his ear that connects him directly to Katsuki. Did you find them? It takes a moment for his friend to reply, yeah, I did. Candy canes being a right beach though. Hey. BSTRD, that was a cheap shot. Anyways, Frogface ain't here. Get her good, Deku. And there's a crackle of static before Katsuki switches his comm off in order to focus on his battle with Todoroki. Typical Kaken. Well, at least Izuku was right about Azui not being near Todoroki. In that case though, if Todoroki didn't want to put his teammate out of commission, there has to be a spot on one of the floors that's clear of ice. He just has to find it. He makes it to the 3rd floor, barely. The stairs had been busted up by the ice, but the pieces had miraculously fallen in such a way that he'd been able to hop his way up anyway, and that's when his thermal imaging picks up a heat signature down the hall to the left. He can't see anything solid from this distance, but he'd bet good money that's where Azui is hiding, since the ice from Todoroki's quirk doesn't go down this hall, only past it. He doesn't make it 5 steps down when something long and pink comes flying out from the darkness and snags him around the leg. Oshiyi Izuku manages not to scream too loudly as he's forcefully yanked off his feet and pulled through the corridor at a dizzying speed. His hip and shoulder drag uncomfortably against the floor, but the metal plates of his costume thankfully protect him from the worst of the damage. Azui comes into view, sticking to the wall on all fours. She quickly reels Izuku in, capture tape ready to subdue him. But Izuku won't be going down that easily. Katsuki would be so mad if he didn't win. Before she can fling him into the air and wrap him up, he tosses one end of his own capture tape around one of her arms and tugs on it fast enough to detach her from the wall. "Karo," she croaks, scrambling to regain her footing as Izuku pinches her tongue hard enough to loosen her grip. He backflips away, fully aware that's still well within her range. Her tongue is definitely the most dangerous weapon in her arsenal at the moment. He needs to capture it somehow. Azui leaps to another wall, her large, round eyes observing him as carefully as he observes her. From that brief skirmish, Izuku can already tell that her flexibility and range are far superior to his, as is her speed. His quirk is useless in this scenario, not in a real fight though, so he'll have to rely on his costume gear and his martial arts training. He turns off his thermal imaging because there's enough light coming through a nearby window that he doesn't need it to see Azui's movements. The real struggle will be how he's going to capture her when she's out of his range. Another explosion rocks the building from above, sending a few crumbling bits of debris raining down from the ceiling over their heads. Izuku steps away as a piece the size of his palm almost falls on top of him. "DMN it," he told Katsuki not to bring the roof down. "Oh. Wait." Izuku looks at the chunk of debris, then at Azui. He switches on trajectory mapping, the gears in his mind furiously turning as a new plan begins to take shape. But for this plan to be successful, he needs to make it back to the area with ice in it. Azui is fast, certainly. And turning your back to the enemy is never a good idea. However, Izuku is also reasonably certain that his reaction time is actually just a tad faster. He stifles the sheet-eating grin that threatens to take over his face. Kaken would be so proud if he saw it. Azui makes the first move, striking out with her tongue as Izuku moves to pick up the large piece of debris. He dodges, then grabs her tongue as it sails past his torso. The girl lets out a quiet cry as he, gently, yanks on it. He starts to run back down the hallway, one hand clutching the chunk of rock and the other holding tightly to Azui's tongue. She has no choice but to leap after him. Perfect. He sidesteps a swipe to the arm, jumps over a leg sweep. The hallway is getting colder, so he knows he's almost back to the ice. As expected, the closer they get, the more the girl's movements begin to lag and slow down. She makes a last attempt to block his exit by leaping in front of him, but Izuku is prepared. He hurls the debris in front of him, using his trajectory mapping function to carefully calculate the timing so that the chunk crashes into her stomach just as she's touching down to the floor. Azui chokes and hits the wall hard, her tongue going limp in Izuku's grip. The green-haired boy cheers inwardly and runs the last few meters back to the ice, where he wraps her tongue around one of the spikes of ice jutting out of the floor. He takes a few broken bits of ice that are scattered around, Katsuki's doing, no doubt, and places them around Azui as she struggles to get back to her feet. The additional chill reduces her movements to a sluggish pace, and Izuku is easily able to wrap her up in his capture tape. All Might's voice crackles through one of the building's speakers. Azui Tsuyu has been successfully captured. The villain team is now down to 1. Following that, there's a glorious yell somewhere from above him, followed by a concussive blast of sound and another building-shaking tremor. More bits of debris rain down on them. Izuku moves both him and Azui out of the way, making sure to detach Azui's tongue from the ice so that she doesn't freeze. Not 30 seconds later, All Might's voice booms out, the bomb has been deactivated. The hero team wins. Izuku and Katsuki are greeted by thunderous applause. And cheering when they return to the observation room, Todoroki and Azui following them. Uraraka bounces up to Izuku, stars in her eyes. "Midoriya-kun, you were amazing out there. The rest of you, too," she praises, smiling at them. "That was a stellar first match," Ida says loudly. Although Bakugu's continually offensive language is unacceptable. "Shut it, shitty glasses." Ahem. They quiet down as All Might starts to speak. "Excellent work, my young students. Before we proceed with the next match, can anyone tell me who was the MVP of the first match?" Oh, it has to be Bakugu, right?" The pink girl, Ashido, responds enthusiastically, jumping up and down. "He managed to break through Todoroki's ice like it was nothing." And he managed to create a path upwards for his teammate while doing so. The boy with a bird-like head, Tokoyami, continues. I think Midoriya's performance was good, too. He was able to outsmart Azui-san in the moment and secure the first victory. Todoroki's ice wave looked crazy just watching it on screen. I can't believe you guys won against that. All Might claps his hands together. Indeed, young Bakugo is the MVP of the first match. You not only aided your teammate in combating against your opponent's quirk, you created a path that he could follow, and you willingly took on the stronger opponent and trusted your teammate to be able to win against his own opponent. Congratulations on your victory, Team H. Another round of applause. The 4 students find seats to sit down and rest while All Might announces the next match. Next up, Team F versus Team D. Team F is the hero team and Team D is the villain team. As with the previous round, each team will get 5 minutes to strategize. Show me how plus ultra you can be. Ooh, I'm up now. Wish me luck. Uraraka says, tapping her fingers together nervously. You can do it, Uraraka-san. Good luck to all of you. Izuku cheers. Combat training results. Team vs Team I victory, Team H MVP, Bakugo Katsuki. Team vs Team D victory, Team F MVP, Uraraka Ochako. Team I vs Team G victory, Team E MVP, Hagakure Turu. Team J vs Team C victory, Team C MVP, Tokoyami Fumikage. Team vs Team A victory, Team A MVP, Shiro Hanta. Back in homeroom, Aizawa slouches behind his desk. Good work in your first basic combat lesson. I hope none of you were too dazzled by All Might to take your training seriously, he deadpans. A couple of students shift guiltily in their seats. Now for a more serious matter. Class 1A gulps as he surveys them with tired eyes. What is it now? What kind of crazy thing will they have to do next? It's time for you to pick a class representative. There's a beat of silence so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Aizawa produces his signature yellow sleeping bag as the class explodes into chaos, most of the students attempting to shout over each other and frantically wave their hands. You have 10 minutes to decide amongst yourselves, he says, rolling himself up in the sleeping bag like a burrito. Don't wake me up. And in true Aizawa fashion, he appears to drop off to sleep right then and there. Ida stands up and loudly commandeers all the students' attention with his unique hand gestures. Everyone, cease your shouting immediately. We will do this in an orderly fashion and vote for who we think deserves the position. You're the one who's shouting, Azui points out calmly. The bespectacled boy gasps, then clenches his fist tightly as he whispers to himself, it seems that I must train even more. Izuku is next to offer up his 2 cents, I think that's a great idea, Ida-kun. Why don't we all take a piece of paper from our notebooks and write our votes there, then we can tally up the total at the end. Whoever gets the most votes will be the president, and the second most voted person will be the vice president. There's a chorus of agreements all around and everyone gets to work. Ida volunteers to count the votes. Nobody dares to accuse him of cheating when he's already more or less established himself as the most honest, follow rules to the letter sort of guy. Izuku's eyebrows shoot up when he looks at the number of tallies beside his name. Seriously? Who voted for me? I did. Uraraka beams, giving him a thumbs up. As did I. Ida says, chopping the air enthusiastically. Me too. We haven't forgotten what you pulled off during the entrance exam, you know, Ojiro replies, grinning. Who else would I vote for, dipshit? Katsuki scoffs, turning in his seat just to roll his eyes at Izuku. I sure as hell ain't interested in leading these losers. That's disrespectful to your classmates, Bakugo. Like I care, for eyes. I also voted for you, Karo, Azui admits. You outwitted me in the battle trials. You were very cool, Midori-chan. Izuku runs a hand through his messy curls, feeling a gentle warmth settle in his stomach. Wow, I'm flattered, I guess. You really want me to be the class representative, he asks, abashed. I can think of no one better suited than you, Midoriya. Ida declares. You can do it, Midoriya-kun. Uraraka cheers. Well, okay, then. Yaoyorozu becomes the vice president, being the only other student with more than 1 vote. I'll do my best to support you all, she says. Izuku. Said boy turns at the sound of his name. He breaks into a smile at the sight of the familiar pink headband and braided black hair. Hey, Suzume. Want to eat lunch with us? The girl clasps her hands together, eyes sparkling in awe. Of course I would. I want to hear all about what you've been up to in the hero course, she says, pumping one fist into the air. She catches Uraraka and Ida staring at her, confused, and she sheepishly rubs the back of her head. Oh yeah, I forgot to introduce myself, huh? My name's Shirogane Suzume. Class 1C, Gened, nice to meet you. I'm Uraraka Ochako, Midoriya-kun's classmate in 1A. Ida Tenya, also of Class 1A. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Suzume's eyes fall on a familiar surly form slouching behind the trio. Well, look who it is. I heard you came in 5th in the entrance exam. What happened to being the best, blasty boy, she taunts, snickering into her hand when he levels her with a death glare. F off, shitty headband. At least I got into the heroics department, unlike you, the blonde predictably roars. Suzume laughs, unfazed. Well, obviously. I didn't apply for the hero course, duh. But now that I'm here, I might as well continue to annoy you for the next 3 years. It's going to be so much fun, isn't it, Izuku? Izuku takes Uraraka's and Ida's hands and nopes the heck out of there without answering. He's not getting in between them and their friendly rivalry when there's food to be had, food made by Lunch Rush. He isn't going to miss it for the world. They can come and find him later once they finish their latest sing contest. Did all 3 of you know each other before coming to Yui? Uraraka questions, glancing back uncertainly as Katsuki and Suzume race each other down the hallway to catch up to them, yelling all the way, well, more like Katsuki is yelling and Suzume is just egging him on continuously. They enter the cafeteria and make a beeline for the trays. Yeah. Kaken and I have known each other forever because our moms are friends. I met Suzume when we were both really young and she had gotten separated from her parents. I didn't see her again until about 2 years ago when I joined an Aikido class that she was part of, Izuku explains. Uraraka leans forward slightly, eyes shining. Midoriya-kun, you know Aikido? That's so cool. Ida nods, scooping a generous helping of beef stew onto his plate. Knowing self-defense techniques on top of combat tactics learned through our hero course training certainly doesn't hurt. It makes you a more well-rounded fighter, I'm sure. By the way, Midoriya-kun, I didn't get a chance to ask this earlier, but why does Bakugo-kun call you Deku? The bubbly girl asks, grabbing some yakisoba and a helping of steamed vegetables. Isn't that an insult? Oh, not in our case. When we were babies, I couldn't pronounce Katsuki correctly and he couldn't pronounce Izuku, so Kaken and Deku just became an easier way to say our names. And, well, the name stuck 'cause we've known each other for so long. It's not an insult, I promise, Izuku responds, smiling. If it was meant as an insult, I would have given him a stern talking to. Ida says, balancing his tray on one arm as he reaches up to adjust his glasses. They flash ominously in the light. Uraraka giggles, well, if it's just a nickname, I think that's pretty cute. It's got sort of like this Dikairu vibe to it, you know? Izuku laughs, helping himself to some katsudon. Thanks. Do you think Bakugo-kun would mind if I called you Deku, too? The bubbly girl wonders aloud. Izuku doesn't get to answer because that's when Katsuki roughly inserts himself into the conversation, holding his own tray with a plate of extra spicy curry rice. Back off, round face. I'm the only one who can call him that, he growls. Our round face, you mean me? Uraraka squeaks, shocked. Her cheeks warm in embarrassment. If she wasn't holding a tray, she would have slapped both hands over her face. Bakugo. Stop it with the derogatory nicknames at once. Yeah, Bakugo. With that kind of attitude, you won't be anyone's favorite hero anytime soon, Suzume chimes in. Katsuki opens his mouth to argue back, but then Izuku interjects before it can get any worse. Okay, guys, enough antagonizing each other. I want to enjoy my lunch in peace, the green-haired teenager sighs, speed-walking to the nearest empty table. The other 4 students follow him like a gaggle of puppies. Uraraka not so subtly shifts so that Suzume is standing directly between her and Katsuki. As Izuku sets his tray down, he sees a purple-haired student with eyebags even worse than Aizawa's walk up to them and boldly interrupt the latest argument between Katsuki and Suzume by tapping on Katsuki's shoulder. Hey, you guys are being way too loud. Could you keep it down? Katsuki whirls on him, teeth bared. Who the F are? He stops right in the middle of his tirade and stares vacantly into space. Shut up, sit down, and eat your lunch, the purple-haired student commands. Izuku, Suzume, Uraraka, and Ida all watch in shock as Katsuki obediently sits down and begins to eat, still blank-faced and quiet. Izuku has so many questions right now. Wow, you actually got him to stop yelling, Uraraka remarks in awe. That's cool. I'm Uraraka Ochako, what's your name? I'm Shinso Hitoshi of Class 1C, same as Shirogane over there, Shinso yawns, balancing his own tray of food. Now if you'll excuse me. Why don't you sit with us? Izuku offers, giving the other boy a winning smile. Shinso pauses and blinks at him, one eyebrow arched in slight disbelief. What? Sit with us, Izuku repeats. Why? Aren't you scared of my quirk? Shinso scoffs. Scared? Of what? You only did it because Kaken was causing a disturbance, right? That would be so useful for hero work. Oh wait, you said you were in Class 1C? Is that because your quirk is only effective on humans and not things like robots? It seems like your quirk is voice-activated, so how does it work? Is it automatic? Or you can control who you want to control, it has to be the second one, right? Because I also answered your question and yet I'm still talk. Izuku, breathe, Suzume reminds him fondly. Uraraka and Ida are also looking at him oddly, having not been exposed to his excited fanboy side previously. Oh, sorry. I get really excited about quirks, Izuku says sheepishly. Shinso is staring at him with his mouth agape like Izuku is an alien from outer space. You don't think that my quirk is villainous? He asks slowly. Hesitation and skepticism is written all over his face. Izuku tilts his head to the side. Villainous? Sure, some people might see it that way, but it's all about intent, right? It matters how you use it. It's your quirk, you know. If you use it to commit crime, then it's a villain's quirk. If you use it to help people, then it's a hero's quirk. Shinso still doesn't look like he believes him. Izuku can guess by his reaction alone that no one has ever told him otherwise. Well, that's what his quirk is for. He pats the seat right next to him. Sit down, Shinsakuin. I promise I'm not going to hurt you. The purple-haired student reluctantly sits beside him. The other students take up the seats around them and begin to eat, chatting with each other so that Izuku can speak with Shinso. Izuku holds out a hand, which Shinso eyes like it's a particularly venomous snake. Shinsakuin, I'm sure you haven't had an easy life. Please let me help you, he coaxes gently. First tell me your name, Shinso demands. The freckled boy blinks. Oh. I'm Midoriya Izuku, from Class 1A. Midoriya, huh? So you're the one who came in first in the hero entrance exam, Shinso says, eyes narrowed. You better not be taking pity on me just because you're in the hero course. Izuku shakes his head. Not at all. See, my quirk allows me to remove someone's negative emotions so that they can move on and become a better version of themselves, he explains. It's not a permanent solution, but I've helped a lot of people over the years with it. I would like to help you too, if you don't mind. He keeps holding his hand out. The purple-haired boy looks a little uncertain at the revelation of what Izuku's quirk does. You mean, you don't have a quirk that gives you any physical advantages? He mutters. Then how did? Being a hero is more than just knowing how to take down an opponent, Izuku says sagely. Shinso stares a little while longer, aware that the more time he takes, the colder his food will get. Izuku beams when he warily acquiesces and grabs his outstretched hand. Shinso's emotionscape is distressingly dark. The core of heavy depression hangs in the air, inky and black as a new moon. Distorted chains of words flash over the core, blinking white and then gone just as quickly as they appear. Below the core, a single frail flower sprouts out of the darkness, its purple petals wilting and growing at 3-second intervals. From the bottom of the core, several thorny black whips lash out at the flower, barely grazing it, but never doing more than that. Well, he's not going to let his new friend suffer like this anymore. Izuku pulls. He presses a delicate glass cat into Shinso's palm, dark and sleek with translucent paws, its white tail arched elegantly over its back. The purple-haired boy looks down at it, completely nonplussed. He's so shocked that he accidentally releases his quirk, which is keeping Katsuki quiet. The explosive blonde blinks down at his half-empty plate of food, then turns a murderous gaze upon Shinso and looks about 2 seconds away from throttling him. Izuku frantically shakes his head and mouths, not now, Kaken. Deprived of a target for his fury, Katsuki angrily eats the rest of his curry. Midoriya, you shouldn't be using your quirk outside of class, Ida says half-heartedly. Neither should you, Shinso. Oh, don't be such a stick in the mud. Izuku's quirk is a godsend, you know. Suzume protests, brandishing her chopsticks at him. Well, yes, but... As Ida, Uraraka, and Suzume go off into their own conversation once more, Izuku asks Shinso how he's feeling as he starts eating his katsudon. For a long moment, the Gen Ed boy doesn't answer. He brushes his fingers over the cat figurine, again and again, seemingly lost in thought. Izuku waits patiently for his response. When it comes, it's quiet, but he hears it all the same. Good. Thank you. Izuku grins, his eyes crinkling at the corners. You're welcome, Shinsakuin. Shinso takes a deep breath, carefully putting the glass sculpture into his pocket. Did you know that someone from general education can transfer to the heroics department if they prove themselves worthy? He asks casually. Izuku knows exactly what he's saying even if he doesn't voice it. I didn't know that, but thanks for telling me. I'll be waiting for you, the green-haired boy assures him, giving Shinso a thumbs up. For the first time in a long time, Shinso finally cracks a smile. Which is, of course, the moment that the intruder alarm decides to start wailing, scaring every single student in the cafeteria shitless. and the school descends into chaos.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification. So when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.